Chapter 495. Greetings, Mr. Tsing Hui. Seeing Tsing Hui arrive, Iron Jade Peak's Peak Master Zhou Cunyu hurriedly bowed. Qing Su did not go out of his way to hide his true name, so his identity was obviously known by others. The Hidden Sword sect was 20 million kilometers away from the eastern wilderness. Coupled with the fact that there were countless people with similar names in the world, he was not worried that the people of the Hidden Sword sect would connect him to the Qing Su of the eastern wilderness just because of a name. Even if they did, it would not be a problem. With the Scarlet Abyss sword protecting him, he did not need to be so secretive. I wonder why Peak Master Zhou has come to visit me. I have taken the liberty of visiting Mr. Tsing Hui because of the future of the Hidden Sword sect. Oh. Tsing Hui did not comment. Zhou Cunyu said in a deep voice, Mr. Tsing Hui has stayed in the Hidden Sword sect for a few years. Even if he stayed in the Burial Sword Peak for 2 years to cultivate with the Ancestral Master, you should be able to see the biggest drawback that the Hidden Sword sect is facing. After 1,000 years of peace, the sect is no longer as lively as it used to be. A sect without vitality will inevitably decline in the long run. Now that the Ancestral Master is in charge, the Hidden Sword sect can sit back and relax, but once the Ancestral Master passes away, the future of the Hidden Sword sect will be worrying. 2 years ago, the North Moon Peak and Aurora Peak were wantonly destroyed by some people in the Hidden Sword sect. Tsing Hui glanced at Zhou Cunyu. He did not expect the Iron Jade Peak's Peak Master to have such guts. He actually dared to mention the Hidden Sword Venerable Sword. It's true that the Hidden Sword sect is willing to stay in one place, but that does not mean that other forces are willing to watch the Hidden Sword sect occupy the vast Hidden Sword continent. As far as I know, the Dao aura value that the Hidden Sword continent produces every year can be ranked in the top 30 in the entire Divine Wilderness, and among the many medium-sized continents, it can be ranked in the top 5. In the face of such huge benefits, which force would not be tempted? Tsing Hui nodded. There were not many large continents in the Divine Wilderness world. Furthermore, not every large continent could produce more Dao aura than a medium continent. Therefore, Zhou Cunyu's claim that the Divine Wilderness world's Dao aura production was in the top 30 was very pertinent. Because of this, many large and top-tier chaos organizations continued to stir up trouble on Hidden Sword continent, even though they knew that Hidden Sword Venerable was there. That was why Hidden Sword continent wasn't peaceful. Since you understand the problem the Hidden Sword sect is facing, then, how do you plan to solve it? There are 2 solutions. First of all, as long as our Hidden Sword sect can continuously produce top-notch experts, even if other chaos organizations are jealous of our Hidden Sword continent's Daoist rhyme, they can only stir up trouble in the dark. It will be difficult for them to stir up any trouble. Top-notch experts. Qing Su thought about the current situation of the Hidden Sword sect and said, there are quite a lot of Golden Core experts in the Hidden Sword sect, but most of them have only condensed a low-grade Golden Core with the help of external forces to increase their lifespan. Let alone high-grade Golden Cores, there's only a handful of them who have the potential to condense a high-grade Golden Core. It's not easy to produce enough peak experts. Yes. Zhou Cunyu said in a deep voice, so we thought of the second solution, which is to find a reliable expert to support the Hidden Sword sect's rule over the Hidden Sword continent. Tsing Hui's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. He suddenly thought of Hidden Sword Venerable's attitude towards him. Even though Hidden Sword Venerable had been in seclusion all these years, Tsing Hui did not believe that he knew nothing about the Hidden Sword sect's current problems. Furthermore, when he thought of Hidden Sword Venerable's attitude towards him, Hidden Sword Venerable wanted to use him as a foreign aid. However, why did Hidden Sword Venerable choose him? He was not a member of the Hidden Sword sect and his cultivation level was not even at the Golden Core stage. It was not worth it for Hidden Sword Venerable to invest so much in him. If Hidden Sword Venerable was willing to invest those resources in the Hidden Sword sect's Golden Core experts, it would not be difficult for him to cultivate a few high-grade Golden Core cultivators. As long as one of these high-grade Golden Core cultivators was not too unlucky, it would not be difficult for them to break through to the transcendent stage and derive a transcendent divine ability. However, Hidden Sword Venerable chose him when there was a way out. Tsing Hui pondered, perhaps there was a secret that he did not know about. Furthermore, he thought of the only thing that was strange about him, Myriad Sword's peak. Tsing Hui understood. It seemed that the Hidden Sword sect's biggest secret was hidden in the Myriad Sword's peak. Hidden Sword Venerable should know something about it, but he did not mention it. Perhaps it was not the right time. No matter what, he owed Hidden Sword Venerable a huge favor. If the Hidden Sword sect was in trouble in the future, he would not stand by and do nothing. Thinking of this, his gaze fell on Zhou Cunyu. What you mean is, this reliable expert can't be me, right? Mr. Tsing Hui is right. The expert I am talking about is Mr. Tsing Hui, or rather, the expert behind Mr. Tsing Hui and Mr. Tsing Hui. I believe that the expert who can teach such an excellent disciple like Mr. Tsing Hui is definitely not an ordinary person. Furthermore, I have learned a little about Mr. Tsing Hui's background. Thinking of the commission from the Divine Grace Chamber of Commerce, I have more or less found out some information. This information is related to the Primal Chaos Chamber of Commerce that was established not long ago in the Chaos Temple. Speaking of this, Zhou Cunyu quickly stood up and bowed to Tsing Hui and said, I have to apologize to Mr. Tsing Hui for investigating Mr. Tsing Hui's background. Oh. Since Tsing Hui had chosen to reveal his identity, he naturally did not want to continue hiding it. So, what have you found out? Zhou Cunyu looked at Tsing Hui and asked respectfully, may I ask if Mr. Tsing Hui is the disciple of esteemed Zhu Zhao, one of the top 10 experts of infinite wilderness? Tsing Hui stared at Zhou Cunyu. He had to admit that this peak master of the Iron Jade Peak had impressed him. He could not believe that he was able to find out such detailed information. From the fact that he could mention esteemed Zhu Zhao based on his identity, he could tell that this person should have guessed that he and Tsing Hui were the same person. How did you find out about this? Tsing Hui said noncommittally. However, in Zhou Cunyu's eyes, Qing Su's response had undoubtedly proved his relationship with the venerable Zhu Zhao. Zhou Cunyu immediately let out a sigh of relief. He immediately said, compared to the Golden Crow bloodline, there are far fewer cultivators of the Shining Dragon bloodline, and once the Shining Dragon bloodline is mentioned, anyone would instinctively think of the venerable Zhu Zhao, Sword Master Baiheim, and ancestor Pasua who is slightly inferior. Mr. Qing Su, you claim to have come under your master's orders. Someone who can teach an expert like you and have a master who can stand on equal footing with the founding ancestor must be in existence at the level of great powers. As a result, the range of choices has been infinitely narrowed down. Based on this range, I used the channels of the Pavilion of Heavenly Secrets to collect and understand the information of the invincible giants, and finally discovered your location. Speaking of this, his tone paused slightly. After all, the scene of esteemed Zhu Zhao's personal disciple, Remnant Sword, going to the eastern wilderness to welcome you was witnessed by many powerhouses. In addition, early on in the eastern wilderness, there was a rumor that you had the support of an almighty behind you. Thinking carefully, it's not difficult to guess. Hearing this, Tsing Hui's face changed slightly. Even Zhou Cunyu had found out about this, so it was not difficult for the people of the North Moon Peak to find out about this. He had ruined the plan of the North Moon Peak and the Aurora Peak to intervene in the affairs of the Hidden Sword Continent. These two forces would definitely try to collect information about him. Even if they could not find any clues about him in a short time, they would definitely hear about him after a long time. If it was only the North Moon Peak, he would not be afraid. But don't forget that the North Moon Peak was backed by the Way of Heaven, and Remnant Sword was also a high-level member of the Way of Heaven. Once Remnant Sword knew about this, he would chase him to the Hidden Sword Continent and kill him. Wait. Remnant Sword. A light flashed across Tsing Hui's eyes. Now, did he still need to be afraid of Remnant Sword? He wanted to know if he or the Way of Heaven's chess piece who had stepped into the realm of a powerful figure would be the one who would survive in the end. Thinking of this, Tsing Hui's gaze fell on Zhou Cunyu again, it seems that you are dissatisfied with the Hidden Sword Peak being in charge of the Hidden Sword sect now. Yes. Zhou Cunyu did not hide his ambition. He gritted his teeth slightly and said, "At present, although the people of the Hidden Sword Peak are maintaining the normal operation of the Hidden Sword sect on the surface, in fact, the Hidden Sword sect's ruling power over the Hidden Sword continent is not as strong as before. Hundreds of years ago, the Hidden Sword sect was still the top on the Hidden Sword continent. Many geniuses on the Hidden Sword continent were proud to be able to join the Hidden Sword sect, but now, the entire Hidden Sword sect has a serious bureaucratic system. If cultivators want to get more cultivation resources, they no longer rely on their own talent and contributions to the sect, but on their background and who can win the favor of the higher-ups of the sect. Continue. The current Hidden Sword sect is extremely corrupt internally. Everyone is doing nothing and waiting for death. For their own power, they fight openly and secretly. They don't care about the rules of the sect. To the outside world, they are arrogant and domineering. They persecute and exploit the ordinary cultivators and small sections. Why did these small and medium-sized forces betray the Hidden Sword sect without hesitation all these years after receiving the support of the Chaos Organization? Why did these small and medium-sized forces betray the Hidden Sword sect without hesitation and go on the path of becoming enemies with the Hidden Sword sect? The reason is the Hidden Sword sect's relentless pressure. Now that the Founder Master is still here, this pressure is suppressed by his absolute power and cannot erupt. But once the Founder Master leaves, in addition to the grievances and conflicts accumulated over the past hundreds of years, the power formed will definitely destroy the entire Hidden Sword sect. At that time, all of us will become the sinners of the Hidden Sword sect. After saying this, Zhou Cunyu bowed deeply to Tsinghui and pleaded, "I am not willing to wait for this to really happen before making preparations. Only by preparing for a rainy day can we prevent the Hidden Sword sect from suffering huge losses. Therefore, I would like to ask Mr. Tsinghui to support me and replace the Hidden Sword Peak to lead the Hidden Sword sect to a new glory." Chapter 496. Hand over your detailed plan for the future of the Hidden Sword sect and I will consider it. Tsinghui said. It was obviously impossible for him to directly agree to Zhou Cunyu's request. After all, the Hidden Sword sect was established by the Hidden Sword Honorable. Even if the Hidden Sword Honorable thought highly of him and entrusted him to take care of the Hidden Sword sect in the future, the Hidden Sword Honorable was still around and he did not have the right to dictate the future development of the Hidden Sword sect. However, even if Zhou Cunyu's plan was feasible and the Hidden Sword Peak was truly hopeless, he could still suggest to the Hidden Sword Swordmaster to let Tai Yufeng take over the position. As for the final decision, it would still be up to the Hidden Sword Swordmaster. He would not have any additional words or attitude to influence the decision. Thank you for your trust, Mr. Tsinghui. There's no need. Perhaps your visit this time is meaningless. It's better to take action than to be indifferent. Zhou Cunyu smiled and took out a box from his personal space. The detailed plan for the development of the Hidden Sword sect is in this box. Mr. Tsinghui can take a look at it whenever you have the time. Tsinghui's expression changed slightly when Zhou Cunyu took out the box. However, he did not say anything and only made a gesture to send him off. Zhou Cunyu smiled and bade farewell. He quickly retreated. That's not a small sum. The Hidden Sword continent is indeed one of the top 30 continents in the Divine Wilderness. Tsinghui waved his hand and opened the box. Inside the box, there were more than 30 items of different sizes. The total value of these items was a shocking 80 Daoist rhymes. 80 Daoist rhymes. Including the necklace from before, Zhou Cunyu had taken out 88 Daoist rhymes worth of items to obtain his support to overthrow the Hidden Sword Peak. This amount was almost equivalent to half of the profits that Tsinghui had plundered from a large sect in the Eastern Wilderness. The Hidden Sword sect is really rich. Tsinghui kept the box and left the courtyard of the Divine Grace Chamber of Commerce. He then rode on his sword and flew towards the burial sword peak where the hidden sword venerable was. Hidden sword venerable might have gotten used to living in the burial sword peak. Even though he had finished his cultivation, he was still living in the burial sword peak. The only difference was that there was a powerful sword formation in the burial sword peak. No one could get close to the burial sword peak. But now, if someone wanted to visit the burial sword venerable, they could still be summoned. Greetings, Lord Tsinghui. As soon as Tsinghui landed outside of Hidden Sword Venerable's courtyard, a young man immediately came up to him and bowed respectfully. Hidden Sword Venerable is inside receiving a guest. I'll go report to Hidden Sword Venerable now. Please wait for a moment, Master Tsinghui. All right. Tsinghui nodded. Since Hidden Sword Venerable was entertaining guests, he did not want to disturb him. However, before the young man could go in to report, Hidden Sword Venerable's voice could be heard. Are you Tsinghui? Come in. Since Hidden Sword Venerable had summoned him, Tsinghui did not wait outside. Instead, he stepped into the living room under the young man's surprised gaze. In the living room, there were two middle-aged men, a middle-aged woman who looked to be in her 50s, and a young lady. They were talking about something anxiously. As Tsinghui entered, Hidden Sword Venerable waved his hand. All right, I'll investigate your matter. You can leave now. As long as you have a clear conscience, I won't punish you. Yes. The few of them replied respectfully. Among them, the young lady said coquettishly, Great-grandfather, you're no longer in seclusion. You need someone to follow you around. Why don't you let Xiaoqin serve you tea? Hidden Sword Venerable looked at the young lady beside him and was slightly stunned. After a while, he shook his head and said, I've come out of seclusion this time because I have something important to take care of. I won't be staying in the sect for too long. After I announce the results of a few matters tomorrow, I'll leave the Hidden Sword sect. Hence, I don't need you to follow me. Everything can wait until I'm done. The young lady was instantly disappointed. All right, you can all leave now. Master, we'll take our leave now. The old woman bowed respectfully to Hidden Sword Venerable and left with the other two middle-aged men and the young lady named Xiaoqin. When they left, they looked at Tsinghui and nodded slightly to Tsinghui. Tsinghui also nodded in response. Tsinghui knew all of them. One of them was the peak master of the famous Mingjian Peak in the Hidden Sword sect. The other was the great elder of the Mingjian Peak. As for the old woman, she was the fourth disciple of the Hidden Sword sect. She was also an expert who had cultivated to the Golden Core realm. She was over 1,200 years old this year and had been by Hidden Sword Venerable's side since before he became a powerful figure. As for the young lady, Tsinghui did not know her background. The famed Sword Peak was the most famous peak in the Hidden Sword sect. If the peaks of the Hidden Sword Peak were to be ranked, the Hidden Sword Peak would naturally be ranked first, followed by the North Moon Peak and Aurora Peak. Even if the famed Sword Peak wasn't ranked fourth, it would at least be ranked fifth. Tsinghui, you're here. Have a seat. Hidden Sword Venerable immediately greeted Tsinghui with a smile after the group left. His attitude was completely different from how he treated the people from Mingjian Peak. Sword Venerable. Tsinghui nodded at Hidden Sword Venerable and took out the box that Zhou Cunyu had given him. He said, many people have visited me in the past 2 days. One of them was quite interesting. He even gave me a generous gift before he left. Hidden Sword Venerable was the level master of the Chaos Realm. The Hidden Sword Venerable was a 29th class son of Chaos, so he obviously learned about the contents of the box from the Chaos Divine Hall as soon as possible. He immediately sneered, looks like I was right after all. As soon as I revealed the slightest intention of reorganizing the Hidden Sword sect, all sorts of people have come running out. Zhou Cunyu, I have some impression of this person. Even though he's not my direct disciple, he has received my guidance more than once. He's very capable and very talented, but he's just a little too scheming. Now, he's actually set his sights on you, Qing Su. in order to take over that position. He really isn't willing to let go of any opportunity. As he spoke, he had already opened the box. In addition to the many items that carried the Tao, there was also a plan for the future of the Hidden Sword sect. I think this plan is his real intention. Hidden Sword Venerable said. Tsing Hui was slightly stunned when he heard this. He immediately realized that he had been tricked by Zhou Cunyu. Zhou Cunyu wasn't trying to be friendly with Hidden Sword Venerable. Instead, he was trying to show Hidden Sword Venerable that he wanted to be promoted. For this, Zhou Cunyu didn't hesitate to fill in 80 Taoist spirit items. One had to admit that Hidden Sword Venerable was a man of great courage. He has some ideas. Tsing Hui could not help but feel disappointed after he understood what was going on. Humph, he has the ability and the ideas. However, he is too scheming. This kind of person will never be able to achieve anything in the Tao of cultivation. Hidden Sword Venerable snorted. Tsing Hui nodded. Zhou Cunyu only spent some effort. However, there should be many people who have the same idea as him. Tsing Hui, if you don't mind, I would like you to put on a show with me. What is it, Sword Venerable? Everyone in the Hidden Sword sect should understand how important you are to me now. They should also understand that I won't be staying in the Hidden Sword sect for long this time, so I'll be leaving temporarily. As a result, I want you, Qing Su, to take a good look at the lords of these mountains for me as a great elder and see who can succeed the Hidden Sword sect and take on the heavy responsibility of leading the Hidden Sword sect to new glory. Tell me when I return. Hidden Sword Venerable is going to leave. How long will it take? I need to go to Infinite Region to settle a grudge. The Eastern Wilderness is less than 2,000 kilometers away from here. If I am fast, it will take about 2 to 3 months. Even if I am slow, it will take no more than half a year. Therefore, I only need you to take care of the Hidden Sword sect for me for half a year. Half a year, Tsing Hui's only danger was the broken sword. With the backtracking skill and the extreme sword principle, he was not afraid of the broken sword. Even if he was exposed, it would not matter. On the other hand, Meng Qi had to put his promise to the Firmament Master to kill Gong Hua, the future chosen one of the Heavenly Tao, on the agenda. He had been in seclusion in the Hidden Sword continent for 2 whole years. Now, he would be delayed for a few months to half a year. In addition, it would take a lot of time to go to Infinite Wasteland. He had only 2 years left. Sword Venerable, don't worry. I will take good care of the Hidden Sword sect for you in this half a year. I will also see who can lead the Hidden Sword sect to glory. Okay, I am not worried about you. Hidden Sword Venerable looked at Tsing Hui and said, after changing to the extreme sword principle, we can only use our natal swords. Divine weapons are not essential to us. As for armors, they are useless if they cannot be integrated with the body. Fortunately, apart from divine weapons and armors, there is also the existence of flying swords. Although we cultivators of the sword principle can fly with sword chi, if we have a powerful flying sword, we will be able to protect ourselves. Coincidentally, I can be called a master swordsman, so I have many flying swords with me. I have selected a few for you according to the characteristics of your genuine chi. You can see which one is most suitable for you. With that, the Hidden Sword Venerable waved his hand and the 4 flying swords landed before Qing Su at the same time. At first, Tsing Hui did not pay much attention to it. However, when he picked up one of the flying swords, he could not help but exclaim, a level 12 flying sword? Hidden Sword Venerable smiled and said, after so many years, it is not surprising that I have accumulated a few level 12 flying swords. When Qing Su heard what the Sword Venerable of the Hidden Sword said, he immediately realized that the 4 flying swords had all reached a startling 12th class. One had to know that the price of a flying sword was usually 1 level higher than a divine weapon. Even in those large forces, a 12th level flying sword would require hundreds of Taoist rhymes to obtain. For those ordinary people, if they wanted to purchase a 12th level flying sword, wouldn't they need thousands of Daoist rhymes? However, there were 4 flying swords in front of Tsing Hui, choose one. You have a level 10 recovery ability, so your genuine qi will recover very quickly. Even if you use a level 12 flying sword and some elixirs, you will be able to maintain a balance between your genuine qi consumption and your genuine qi recovery speed. With a level 12 flying sword, if you want to go to Tianhuang region, you can fly 500,000 kilometers in a day and 9 million kilometers in less than 20 days. Will has been managing the book group and the book review page all these years. I really want to thank him for his hard work. Chapter 497. There was a tinge of envy in the hidden sword venerable's voice. Only with the powerful recovery ability of the 10th order could one withstand the consumption of a 12th order flying sword at full speed. Otherwise, not to mention that Tsing Hui was only at the golden core stage, even if it was a celestial phenomenon expert, he would have to stop to catch his breath after a few hours of flying. If he continued to fly for a day and a night without rest, there was even the risk of his qi running out and falling from the sky. Sword Venerable, these flying swords are too valuable. It's just a 12th order flying sword. You should know that a 12th order flying sword that is very precious to others is nothing to me. In terms of value, these flying swords added together are not as valuable as the resources that you use to cultivate to the golden core stage. Moreover, even the resources that you use to cultivate to the golden core stage are not as valuable to me as the ultimate sword Dao. Therefore, don't decline. If you feel uneasy, before I come back, just look after the hidden sword sect for me. Hidden Sword Venerable said with a strange look in his eyes. When he said the words, "Before I come back," there was a slight change in his tone. However, Qing Su failed to notice the abnormality in the Hidden Sword Venerables' tone. Hearing how firm the Hidden Sword Venerable was, he could only choose the most suitable one out of the 4 flying swords and put it away. I'll choose this one. This flying sword is called the Sky Splitter. When the sword light pierces through the sky, its speed is extremely fast, as if it is tearing a crack in the sky. But since you are its owner, you should give it a name. No, I think the name Sky Splitter is good. Tsing Hui said. Well then, you go and rest. After Hidden Sword Venerable finished speaking, he glanced at the many Dao treasures in the box. At the same time, he put the future development plan of the Hidden Sword sect written by Zhou Cunyu back into the box. Since these peak masters have accumulated a lot of wealth over the years, you can keep it. I want to see how many things they can give away. That's not right. I'll leave it with you. You can remember them one by one. When I come back from Heaven Wasteland, you can pass them to me. Also, you can take a look at this plan. Zhou Cunyu is a lot of scheming, but he does have some ability. There are some things in this plan that I can learn from. Seeing this, Tsing Hui thought that he might encounter similar situations in the future. He did not force it and waved his hand to keep the box in his personal space. I understand, I'll look at it when I get back. You don't have to worry too much about it. The most important thing for you now is to properly polish your golden core and let it mature. If you can nurture a divine ability in one go, then you can go anywhere in the world. Develop a divine power. In the past 2 years, Qing Su had increased his mental strength from below the 100th level to the astonishing 118th level. If the Scarlet Abyss Sword had only nurtured a regular ability, he could still suppress it, but if it had nurtured a great ability, it would be impossible for the great ability to fuse with the Scarlet Abyss Sword with his current mental strength. Once he condensed a sovereign's golden core and nurtured a supreme ability, the power of the ability would probably be able to directly break through the Scarlet Abyss Sword's restraints and shatter it. Therefore, even though his golden core had reached the standard of being able to develop a divine power, he still did not dare to take that step. He had to wait until his mental strength level reached 125, or even 130, before considering the final step of developing a divine power. After talking to Hidden Sword Venerable, Tsing Hui returned to his room. He did not intend to use the 88 Tao rhymes from Zhou Cunyu for the time being. However, he did not intend to keep the 200 Tao rhymes from the Divine Grace Chamber of Commerce in his personal space. The most important thing was to convert the Tao rhymes into his own strength as soon as possible. If he did not convert the Tao rhymes into his own strength, what was the use of having so many Tao rhymes? Xing Hui focused his attention on the 241 Tao rhymes items in his personal space. Instantly, 200 Tao rhymes items turned into ashes. Correspondingly, his chaos level rose from 47 to 49. As his chaos level rose, Xing Hui's gaze fell on the many characteristics derived from the Son of Chaos. 2 chaos levels allowed him to control a large space. In terms of comprehension, he had already reached rank 5 and had undergone the first round of mutation. As for his talent in Sword Dao, it remained at rank 3. If he could add his 2 chaotic ranks to his talent in Sword Dao, his talent in Sword Dao would break through to rank 5 and undergo a mutation. Although he did not know what kind of change it would bring, he estimated that it would greatly reduce the difficulty for him to cultivate related sword techniques and comprehend sword intent in the future. The only problem was Sword Dao talent increases a cultivator's ability to comprehend Sword Dao, but is the so-called Sword Dao talent in the Chaos Temple really the same as the one I need? Xing Hui muttered to himself. Hidden Sword Venerable could not answer this question, and neither could he himself. After a while, Xing Hui shifted his gaze from Sword Dao talent to comprehension. Comprehension had 2 levels. It could be upgraded from level 5 to level 7, but there would be no mutation or substantial growth in the process. Therefore, Xing Hui shifted his gaze again to the 2 characteristics of the backtrack skill and the divine skill. He did not know what new changes would occur when the backtrack skill reached level 6. As for the divine skill, if it was upgraded by another level, it would reach level 5. If both levels were upgraded at the same time, it would reach level 6. Once the divine skill reached level 6, his cultivation level would increase by 2 levels. Although the so-called 2 levels were only an increase in energy level, it was still significant to Xing Hui. Buzz buzz. The aura of the divine skill surged from Xing Hui's body. His cultivation level rose directly to the divine skill realm. However, because he had yet to derive any divine skill, he only had the energy of the divine skill realm. Even so, the power of the Deep Scarlet Sword still increased exponentially. If the Deep Scarlet Sword's power was previously comparable to a divine skill of a powerful being, it was now above that of a divine skill. It was close to the level of a divine skill. I'm still 10 levels away from level 59. In other words, I only have 10 levels of primal chaos that I can use. Including the 2 I have now, there's a total of 12. Among the 12 levels of primal chaos, I have to max out my comprehension talent. That takes up 5, so there's 7 left. 7 was just enough to max out his Sword Dao talent. But there would be new characteristics at level 50 and level 55. Could he be sure that those new characteristics would not come in handy? If it was a more powerful characteristic than the backtrack skill, he would be able to remain indifferent to the goal of raising his sword talent to the 10th level. After hesitating for a moment, Xing Hui finally crossed out the level 3 Sword Dao talent. Perhaps when he confirmed that his Sword Dao talent was of the same origin as his current Sword Dao, and that he would be able to improve his chaos level to level 60 and above, he would choose to increase his Sword Dao talent. But for now, I remember that the immortality realm has the most obvious improvement in the effects of the divine skill. In the saint realm, the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth has the most obvious improvement in combat power. After that, it is the true element realm. However, the true element realm can only increase one's energy and prolong the duration of one's battle body. It does not increase one's explosive power by much. It is far from being comparable to the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. The lawful embodiment of heaven and earth is a mysterious state where one's body is integrated with heaven and earth. Every strike is supported by the power of heaven and earth. This power of heaven and earth is not the same as the Yuan Qi of heaven and earth in the Cyan netherworld realm, but it is a kind of rule. Just like a mortal's strike, the so-called power of heaven and earth in the Cyan netherworld realm can be seen as striking with the wind. Comprehension was not an urgent requirement for the current him. The two most important points for him now were to refine his soul and enhance his mental strength. The other point was to accumulate resources so that his Jin Dan could transform once again and advance to the supremacy level. Instead, it was the increase in strength brought by the divine skill. Broken Sword probably already knew that he was in the Hidden Sword sect and could attack him at any time. As a powerful person, his chaotic level could not be lower than level 10. If he really fought to the death and allowed Broken Sword to use the divine art to raise his cultivation level to the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth, he would be in an extremely passive position. Therefore, divine skill. Tsing Hui made a prompt decision and focused his attention on the divine skill. Buzz buzz. In the next moment, the level 4 divine skill changed and rose to level 5. The level 5 divine skill's change was the extension of time. This change was similar to most divine skills at level 5 and was not worth mentioning. After the divine skill reached level 5, Tsing Hui did not stop. As the divine skill became blurry again, its level had risen to level 6. The level 6 divine skill had many options such as increasing the duration of the divine skill or reducing the cooldown time and increasing one's cultivation by 2 levels. Tsing Hui did not hesitate to choose the option of increasing his cultivation by 2 levels. Instantly, the divine skill seemed to have returned to its original state. The duration and cooldown time were the same as a level 1 divine skill. The only change was that the cultivation level increased from 1 level to 2 levels. Level 2 divine skill can increase my cultivation to the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. However, Broken Sword may come at any time and the Hidden Sword Venerable will leave the Hidden Sword sect. If I use the divine skill now, I will have to wait for a month for the cooldown time. Without a doubt, I will lose a powerful trump card. For a moment, he could only suppress this thought in his heart. In the future, there would be plenty of opportunities. With regret, Tsing Hui calmed down and used his sword will to refine the deep scarlet sword that was stored in his dantian. A day passed quickly. The next morning, the entire Hidden Sword sect was bustling with activity. After 100 years, the Hidden Sword Venerable finally began to reorganize the Hidden Sword sect's rules and regulations. Chapter 498. The Hidden Sword sect had a total of 36 mountains. Some of the weaker mountains only had never-ending stage experts, while the stronger mountains had several golden core stage experts. Just like 2 years ago, the North Moon Peak had 8 golden core stage experts, second only to the main peak, the Hidden Sword Peak. Following the defection of the North Moon Peak's Mu Xingyi, Bei Shentong, and Bei Yu Xian with the excuse of going out for training, the various guests also left the Hidden Sword sect. Now, the entire North Moon Peak only had 1 golden core stage expert left. Although it could still be called a powerful mountain, its reputation was far inferior to before. Following the Hidden Sword sect's general meeting, numerous golden core stage, never-ending stage, transformative stage, and true element stage experts rushed over from all directions and gathered on the sword evaluation platform. The originally lifeless Hidden Sword sect was suddenly filled with vitality, becoming incomparably lively, as if it had reappeared in its heyday. Seeing this, the old people who supported the Hidden Sword sect were extremely excited, as if they had been dreaming of this scene. As expected of the Overlord sect that dominates the entire Hidden Sword continent. Tsing Hui and the people from the Divine Grace Chamber of Commerce arrived a little later. When he arrived, 80 to 90% of the experts from the Hidden Sword sect's 36 mountains had already arrived. At a glance, one powerful aura after another soared into the sky, intertwining into one. The momentum was so great that it was unknown how many times greater than that of the Hunyuan Heavenly Sect and the Creation Mysterious Sect. It had to be known that in terms of resources, the Eastern Wilderness was actually only slightly inferior to the Hidden Sword continent. The reason it had fallen to such an extent was mainly because the 10 sacred sects each had the support of the Chaos organization behind them. They fought and killed each other, and their strength couldn't be unified. If the Eastern Wilderness could really give birth to an almighty expert and completely unify the entire Eastern Wilderness, then even if it didn't develop to the scale of the Hidden Sword sect that had nearly 100 Golden Core stage experts, it wouldn't be a problem for the number of experts in the Eastern Wilderness to increase by 2 levels. With my current cultivation level, I can even kill the incarnation of a Tao Lord in one fell swoop. However, I can use the incarnation technique to use my personal space to teleport and travel. There must be such experts in the Heavenly Tao, but in these few years, the Heavenly Tao has been accumulating strength and discussing the distribution of benefits with the Divine Wilderness and Eternity. It didn't divert its attention to a small matter like the Eastern Wilderness, which allowed me to destroy the Creation Mysterious sect. If I really faced the true body of a divine power expert, I might not be able to take advantage of it. Therefore, for safety's sake, it won't be too late to unify the Eastern Wilderness and integrate it into one after my cultivation level improves a little. After all, I've already plundered a wave of the Eastern Wilderness Taoist rhymes in the Eastern Wilderness. In the next 10 years, I won't be able to accumulate anything, so there's no need to rush. Looking at the glorious scene of the Hidden Sword sect, Tsing Hui naturally thought of the situation in the Eastern Wilderness. Compared to the Hidden Sword continent, it was obvious that he had a natural affinity with the Eastern Wilderness, which was the first continent to arrive. The Hidden Sword Venerable has arrived. Just as Tsing Hui was sizing up the experts below the Hidden Sword sect, a voice suddenly came from the void. Suddenly, the Hidden Sword sect experts, who were originally bustling with noise and discussion, all lowered their voices at the same time and looked in the direction of the loud shout. Whoosh! Sword radiance pierced through the sky. The Hidden Sword Venerable, who had become one with his sword, brought with him a majestic sword Tao aura and landed on one of the seats at the top of the sword grading platform. The majestic sword Tao aura that belonged to the ultimate sword Tao aura shot up into the sky and into the clouds. It was so powerful that it shocked all the cultivators of the prominent divine stage, true energy stage, transcendent stage, never-ending stage, and golden core stage. They all looked at the Hidden Sword Venerable with respect. Welcome, Hidden Sword Venerable. Along with the Hidden Sword Peak Lord, who was also the current sect leader of the Hidden Sword sect, Xiao Luiying, who was known as the Sword Sage in the Hidden Sword continent, shouted. Everyone shouted at the same time and bowed to the Hidden Sword Venerable. Some of the people who had not seen the Hidden Sword Venerable for a long time even shouted excitedly to express their surprise at finally seeing the founder of the Hidden Sword sect. No need to be so polite. The Hidden Sword Venerable waved his hand at the crowd. It was hard to tell whether he was happy or angry. Tsing Hui, my friend, please come up and take a seat. After everyone bowed, the Hidden Sword Venerable looked at Tsing Hui and said to Tsing Hui with a smile. Following his words, everyone looked at Tsing Hui. It should be known that everyone on the sword grading platform was the peak lord of the Hidden Sword sect. If they were not a peak lord, even if they were in the Golden Core stage, they would still have to stand below the sword grading platform. As for taking a seat, there were only 3 people who were qualified to take a seat. One was the Hidden Sword Venerable, the current sect leader of the Hidden Sword sect, Xiao Luiying, and the other was the second disciple of the Hidden Sword Venerable, who was also one of the 2 elders that Tsing Hui had met in the 10,000 Swords Mountain, Duan Jianfeng. Among the 3 of them, the sect leader, Xiao Luiying, had to take charge of the situation. Duan Jianfeng was already 1,900 years old and could barely maintain his Golden Core stage. No one could say anything about him taking a seat. However, Tsing Hui, for someone who was not from the Hidden Sword sect to be so valued by the Hidden Sword Venerable. At that moment, the peak lords and elders who had wanted to visit Tsing Hui but did not do so, all of them regretted it. Tsing Hui was more important to the Hidden Sword Venerable than they had imagined. Whoosh! Since the Hidden Sword Venerable had personally invited him, Tsing Hui could not ignore it. In a flash, he appeared beside the Hidden Sword Venerable. Sword Venerable. Have a seat. The Hidden Sword Venerable said with a smile. Tsing Hui did not decline and sat down. Immediately, the Hidden Sword Venerable's second disciple, Duan Jianfeng, and his grand disciple, Xiao Luiying, looked at him. As Tsing Hui sat down, the Hidden Sword Venerable said loudly, I believe everyone knows why I have gathered all of you here. However, before we settle this matter, I have to announce that Tsing Hui will be the Supreme Elder of the Hidden Sword Sect. Boom! As soon as the Hidden Sword Venerable finished his words, the crowd burst into an uproar. Many voices exploded and reverberated in the air above the Sword Grade arena. Supreme Elder? It's actually the Grand Elder. Although there are Supreme Elders in the 36 peaks of the Hidden Sword Peak, how can a Supreme Elder of the Peak compare to a Supreme Elder of the entire Hidden Sword Sect? There's only a single Great Elder in our entire Hidden Sword Sect right now, and that's the Sword Venerable of the Hidden Sword. This Qing Su is actually going to be appointed as the second Great Elder of our Hidden Sword Sect by the Sword Venerable. Doesn't that mean that he is second only to the Sword Venerable? For a moment, all kinds of discussions came from the cultivators below. Everyone looked at Tsing Hui in disbelief. Zhou Zuanyu, who had just given Tsing Hui a generous gift yesterday, clenched his fist tightly. I miscalculated. I didn't expect Tsing Hui to be the second Supreme Elder of the Hidden Sword Sect. Ancestor values him more than I thought. I don't know if he saw through my real intention yesterday. No, regardless of whether he saw through it or not, I have to find a way to repair the relationship between the two of us as soon as possible. Supreme Elder, Mr. Tsing Hui has actually become the Supreme Elder of the Hidden Sword Sect. Mr. Tsing Hui is the direct disciple of my younger brother. To be able to obtain his support, the development of the Divine Grace Chamber of Commerce will be smooth sailing from now on. Su Zhao's eyes were filled with excitement. Although she had overestimated Tsing Hui's position in the Hidden Sword Venerable's heart, she had never thought that the Hidden Sword Venerable would actually appoint Tsing Hui as the Supreme Elder. One had to know that the Supreme Elder of the Hidden Sword Sect was completely different from the Supreme Elders of other sections. In the other sects, the Supreme Elder and the Supreme Elder jointly ruled the sect. In the Hidden Sword Sect, the Supreme Elder was completely above the sect leader and the Supreme Elders Association. At this moment, Tsing Hui could also hear the weight of the Supreme Elder of the Hidden Sword Sect from the discussions of the crowd. He quickly said to the Hidden Sword Venerable, Sword Venerable, just give me the position of an ordinary elder. A Supreme Elder is on the same level as Sword Venerable. I don't deserve it. What? In these 2 years, we've always been on the same level. I'm a Supreme Elder, and you're a Supreme Elder too. If I just give you the title of an elder, what's the point? Plus, you promised me that you'll be the Supreme Elder of the Hidden Sword Sect and help me look after the Hidden Sword Sect. Tsing Hui couldn't help but smile bitterly. I thought that the Hidden Sword Sect would also have a Supreme Elders Association. I didn't expect that the entire Hidden Sword Sect would only have one Supreme Elder, Sword Venerable. This weight, if you really feel that you don't deserve the position of Supreme Elder, then you should pay more attention to the Hidden Sword Sect. The Hidden Sword Venerable laughed loudly. Xiao Luiying and Duan Jianfeng's eyes widened in shock when they saw that the Hidden Sword Venerable was actually forcing Tsing Hui to be the Supreme Elder of the Hidden Sword Sect. On the contrary, Tsing Hui seemed to be unwilling. They couldn't believe what their master was doing. However, the Hidden Sword Venerable didn't explain, other than himself. No one knew the real reason why he was being so nice to Tsing Hui. This was related to the biggest secret of the Hidden Sword Sect. Unless he was about to die, he wouldn't tell anyone this secret. Sword Venerable, you should know that I can't stay in the Hidden Sword Sect for long. Every day counts. The Hidden Sword Venerable said with a smile. Seeing this, what else could Qing Su say? He could only nod. From today onwards, Tsing Hui will be the second Supreme Elder of the Hidden Sword Sect. He will enjoy all the rights of a supreme elder. As the hidden sword venerable said this, the powerful aura on his body appeared once again, suppressing everyone present. At this moment, many peak masters and elders were unhappy with the hidden sword venerable's decision. However, they had to lower their heads. Yes, Grandmaster. After that, let's talk about the question that everyone is most concerned about. As the hidden sword venerable said, he paused slightly, I've been in secluded cultivation recently, so I'm unable to make a detailed judgment regarding the rights and wrongs of the 36 peaks of our hidden sword peak. With only 3 days, it would be irresponsible of the hidden sword sect to make any rash decisions. As a result, I plan on handing over the task of investigating the 36 peaks of our hidden sword sect to the great elder of the Qing Su ruins. The investigation will take at least 3 to 4 months, and at most half a year. At that time, I will follow the great elder's suggestion and reorganize the 36 peaks of the hidden sword sect. Those who have done well will be rewarded, and those who have done wrong will be punished. I will never wrong any loyal disciple of the hidden sword sect, nor will I tolerate anyone who threatens the interests of our hidden sword sect. Chapter 499. First, Hidden Sword Venerable had pulled Qing Su to the same level as him, giving him the identity of the second great elder of the hidden sword sect. Now, he had given Qing Su the authority to review the various peaks of the sect. This decision immediately caused an uproar. The gazes of the peak lords towards Qing Su were immediately filled with various mixed emotions. There was unwillingness, anger, hostility, reluctance, scrutiny, flattery, and so on and so forth. The atmosphere actually became rather strange at that moment. Grandmaster, when Xiao Luiying heard Hidden Sword Venerable's decision, he immediately said hesitantly, Master, even though Mr. Qing Su is an incredible genius in the way of the sword, he's still not a member of our hidden sword sect. Moreover, he's only been on the hidden sword continent for a little over 2 years, and he's been cultivating with you most of the time. He doesn't know much about our hidden sword sect. Isn't it a little inappropriate to give the responsibility of investigating the various peaks to Mr. Qing Su? Xiao Luiying's words made the hidden sword venerable's expression harden. He immediately looked at Xiao Luiying. It's exactly because he's not a member of the hidden sword sect that his final conclusion is impartial. Our hidden sword sect has been around for over 1,000 years now. There are many organizations and clans in the sect, as well as many mountain peaks and departments. Who can guarantee that they can investigate and judge the 36 mountain peaks of our hidden sword sect without any ulterior motives? Who can? You. Or someone else? Xiao Luiying's heart skipped a beat under Hidden Sword Supreme's serious gaze. The entire Hidden Sword sect could be said to have been developed by the Hidden Sword Honorable. The reason why the Hidden Sword sect was able to become the unshakable overlord of the Hidden Sword continent was all because of the Hidden Sword Honorable. Therefore, the Hidden Sword Honorable had a supreme position in the Hidden Sword sect. This could be seen from the fact that when the Hidden Sword Honorable came out of seclusion, countless cultivators were so excited that they could not control themselves and even cried bitterly. Right now, the Hidden Sword Venerable was clearly supporting Qing Su with everything he had. Anyone who dared to oppose him would basically be making an enemy out of the Hidden Sword Venerable. The Sword Venerable is right. When the time comes, we will definitely cooperate with Mr. Qing Su and investigate the various peaks. Xiao Luiying quickly said. The Hidden Sword Venerable replied coldly. At the same time, he said, Qing Su has now become the second great elder of the Hidden Sword sect. Naturally, he has the authority of a great elder. During his investigation of the 36 peaks of the Hidden Sword sect, if anyone dares to go against him for any reason, my friend Qing Su may act and kill them without mercy. Hiss. As Hidden Sword Venerable spat out these 3 words, everyone present could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. The peak masters who were looking at Xing Hui with anger and disdain changed their expressions at the same time. Even Hidden Sword Peak, Famed Sword Peak, Jieyu Peak and Aurora Peak, who were the most powerful peak masters, were shocked and quickly put away their thoughts. You still have 3 months to half a year. These 3 months to half a year will be the time for you to perform well. Whether or not you can atone for your crimes and make up for the mistakes you've made in the past few years will depend on your performance in these 3 months to half a year. Once the time limit is up, my friend Ching Su will deliver the final results of his investigation. As for those who remain stubborn, don't blame me for being merciless. Hidden Sword Supreme didn't show any mercy. Apparently, he wanted to use this opportunity to punish the Hidden Sword Peak so that the Hidden Sword sect wouldn't fall and be replaced by other sects in the Hidden Sword mainland. If such a thing were to happen, the core members of the Hidden Sword sect would definitely be brutally massacred by the replacement sections. When that time came, the entire Hidden Sword sect would inevitably be bathed in blood. Therefore, the Hidden Sword Venerable's strictness this time was actually saving them. Not many people in the Hidden Sword sect could think of this. Some people even thought that Hidden Sword Supreme was muddle-headed. He actually gave power to an outsider and didn't trust his own disciples. However, due to Hidden Sword Supreme's terrifying strength and unparalleled reputation, they didn't dare to say these words. Mr. Tsing Hui, I'll leave this matter to you. Hidden Sword Supreme fiercely reprimanded the disciples of the Hidden Sword sect. Then, he turned to Tsing Hui and his attitude changed drastically. Don't worry, Hidden Sword Supreme. In these few months, I will do my best to find all the black sheep of the Hidden Sword sect and restore the Hidden Sword sect to its former glory. Tsing Hui said solemnly. Since Hidden Sword Supreme trusted him so much, and in addition to the many favors he owed Hidden Sword Supreme, it was time for him to repay him. Good, good. Hidden Sword Supreme nodded happily. He then turned to the crowd and reprimanded them one by one. Then, he waved his hand and said, Jianfeng, Zhongshuan, Su Ran, the 3 of you come here. Hidden Sword Supreme's second disciple Duan Jianfeng, third disciple Zhongshuan, and fourth disciple Su Ran immediately came in front of Hidden Sword Supreme and bowed respectfully, Master. Hidden Sword Supreme replied and pointed at Tsing Hui, although Tsing Hui isn't from the Hidden Sword sect, he's now on the same level as me. Moreover, he's a Supreme Elder. You should call him Junior Uncle. Junior Uncle. Duan Jianfeng, Zhongshuan, and Su Ran were slightly stunned. Sword Supreme, there's no need for that. Tsing Hui shook his head. He naturally knew that Hidden Sword Supreme was looking for a few assistants for him. After all, he was unfamiliar with the Hidden Sword sect. If he didn't have anyone to help him, it wouldn't be easy to investigate the 36 peaks. Why is there no need for that? Hidden Sword Supreme was rather stubborn. He looked at Duan Jianfeng and the other 2 and said sternly, What? Are you ignoring my words? Although Duan Jianfeng, Zhongshuan, and Su Ran were unwilling, they had no choice but to bow to Tsing Hui under the pressure of their master. Greetings, Junior Uncle Tsing Hui. Tsing Hui glanced at Hidden Sword Supreme. Seeing that Hidden Sword Supreme had made up his mind, he didn't say anything else. He just nodded and said, There's no need for that. Tsing Hui, my young friend, if there's anything you need to do while investigating the Hidden Sword sect, you can just ask them to do it. If I find out that anyone dares to go against me, Hidden Sword Supreme's expression became extremely stern, I'll destroy their cultivation and expel them from the sect. Master. Su Ran couldn't help but exclaim when she heard Hidden Sword Supreme's words. Even Xiao Luying who was at the side was terrified when he heard that. He was the son of Hidden Sword Swordmaster's first disciple, Xiao Tsongyun, which was equivalent to Hidden Sword Swordmaster's grand disciple. Xiao Tsongyun had died long before Hidden Sword Swordmaster became an almighty. In Hidden Sword Swordmaster's mind, Xiao Tsongyun was one level lower than Duan Jianfeng, Zhong Xian, and Su Ran. Now that Hidden Sword Swordmaster was so strict with his 3 lineal disciples, then as the sect master of Hidden Sword sect. Thinking of this, he could no longer remain calm and there was a flash of panic in his eyes. Are you clear? Hidden Sword Supreme said sternly. Yes. Duan Jianfeng, Zhongshuan, and Su Rand responded with grievance. Very good. Hidden Sword Supreme smiled faintly and then turned to Tsing Hui, we've made a fool of ourselves in front of you. However, Qing Su looked at the sword venerable of the hidden sword and nodded without saying anything. Next, Hidden Sword Venerable said a few words of encouragement to the peak leaders and the core disciples. He also promised them some benefits. Immediately, the crowd cheered. The meeting lasted for half a day and gradually came to an end. Then, everyone in Hidden Sword Sect left one by one and Hidden Sword Supreme continued to return to Burial Sword Peak. However, other than the three disciples, there was also sect leader Xiao Luying who followed Hidden Sword Supreme to Burial Sword Peak, as well as a few elders and peak masters who thought they had some status. Obviously, they wanted to secretly persuade Hidden Sword Supreme to take back Tsing Hui's position as the second Supreme Elder and give him full authority to investigate the 36 peaks. However, these people were naturally reprimanded by Hidden Sword Supreme and left. Seeing this, the rest of the people didn't dare to do anything. The weaker peaks accepted their fate and tried to make up for their mistakes. On the other hand, some peaks who thought they had some power started to think of ways to make up for their mistakes. After a day, the storm in Hidden Sword Sect gradually calmed down and Tsing Hui stepped into Burial Sword Peak again. Seeing Tsing Hui's arrival, Hidden Sword Supreme was very enthusiastic. Tsing Hui is here, sit. Sword Supreme. Tsing Hui looked at Hidden Sword Supreme and said seriously, Sword Supreme, is it very dangerous for you to go to Infinite Region to do something? Dangerous? Hidden Sword Supreme smiled and said, with my current cultivation level, how many people in the world do you think can pose a threat to me? Divine. I won't easily provoke a divine expert. Tsing Hui looked at Hidden Sword Supreme, as if trying to discern whether he was speaking the truth or not. However, Hidden Sword Supreme had lived for thousands of years, how could he be so easily seen through by Tsing Hui? He smiled and said, you don't think that I'm entrusting the Hidden Sword Sect to you because I've handed over so many things to you, right? In fact, to me, Hidden Sword Sect is a burden. Now that I've thrown this burden away, I feel relieved. You should be able to feel that with my current strength, how can Hidden Sword Sect help me? This. Tsing Hui really didn't know how to answer. Of course there would be benefits, but in terms of strength. Even if everyone in Hidden Sword Sect attacked Hidden Sword Supreme together, they would not be able to kill Hidden Sword Supreme. Well, don't think too much, I'll rest tomorrow and leave for Infinite Region the day after tomorrow. If everything goes well, I'll be back in 3 or 4 months, don't worry about me. After hearing Hidden Sword Supreme's words, Tsing Hui did not know how to persuade him, but he could only agree. Then, Hidden Sword Supreme, be careful, I'll send you off. There's no need to send me off. 3 or 4 months is just a few days for us cultivators who have reached the Golden Core stage. Do you really need to send me off? You just have to help me find the black sheep of Hidden Sword Sect. Oh, right. Hidden Sword Supreme seemed to have thought of something and took out a jade talisman. During this period of time, I plan to write a book about my experience in Extreme Sword Dao. When you're free, you can refer to it for me and see if there's anything I need to add. But don't be in a hurry to read it now, wait until I'm back and finish the second half. Okay. Tsing Hui did not suspect anything and directly took the jade talisman and put it in his personal space. Seeing Tsing Hui take the jade talisman, Hidden Sword Supreme felt a little relieved. However, this trace of strangeness only lasted for a moment and was quickly covered up. Soon, he returned to normal and began to talk about the Extreme Sword Dao with Tsing Hui. Chapter 500. In a flying device that was thousands of kilometers away from the Hidden Sword Sect. Alright, I'm going to Tianhuan region to settle some matters. You don't have to send me off like this. If I knew you would come, I wouldn't have told you the exact time of my departure. Hidden Sword Venerable was the one who spoke. Judging from his attire, he had already packed his things and was about to head to Tianhuang region. Apart from him, there was also Qing Su beside him on the flying arcane artifact to send him off. Originally, Qing Su was not a pretentious person, so he did not take the matter of seeing them off too seriously. However, for some reason, he suddenly wanted to see the Hidden Sword Venerable and the others off this morning, which was why he followed the Hidden Sword Venerable out of his flying arcane artifact and directly saw them off over 1,000 kilometers away. Then, I'll stop here. I hope Sword Venerable can finish your business and return to the Hidden Sword sect. Tsing Hui said. Hidden Sword Venerable smiled and waved his hand. All right, it's just some trivial matters. Don't make a fuss. Let's stop here. We'll be out of the Hidden Sword continent if we continue to send you off. Tsing Hui nodded and left the flying device. He landed on the heaven-splitting sword. The Hidden Sword sect can be considered as my blood, sweat, and tears. It is the only witness to my arrival on this continent. I have even invested thousands of years of my youth into it. Help me look after the Hidden Sword sect, and don't let it be used and destroyed by anyone with ill intentions. Sword Venerable, don't worry. Leave it to me. Tsing Hui nodded. Then I'll wait for your performance in half a year. Hidden Sword Venerable laughed and said, let's go. Instantly, the flying device started up again and turned into a beam of golden light and flew towards the end of the sky. Qing Su frowned as he watched the venerable hidden sword disappear into the horizon on his flying artifact. He felt like this matter was not as simple as he imagined it to be. However, now that Hidden Sword Venerable had switched to the extreme way of the sword, his combat strength was so strong that he could escape with his 12th order flying sword even if he couldn't defeat a Saint Realm cultivator. Therefore, he shouldn't be in any danger on planet Tianhuang. Even if Hidden Sword Venerable couldn't deal with the danger, there was nothing he could do to help. Therefore, he had to suppress the slight worry in his heart. If it's fast, it'll take 3 to 4 months. If it's slow, it'll take half a year. Then, let me properly rectify the Hidden Sword sect, and even the Hidden Sword continent, which is faintly showing a trace of chaos. Tsing Hui mumbled to himself. He then turned around and headed back to the Hidden Sword sect. However, he had only flown for less than 10 kilometers when a terrifying pressure suddenly enveloped him. In the next moment, the space within several dozen kilometers seemed to be affected and disturbed by a terrifying power, becoming chaotic. At the same time, another power formed a strange existence that seemed like a barrier, rapidly enveloping the space within 30 kilometers. It was like a huge energy shield that enveloped Tsing Hui. Remnant Sword. The figure of the remnant sword flashed across Tsing Hui's mind when he was suddenly attacked. Then, the sword radiance of his natal divine sword, Deep Red Sword, suddenly burst out. The sword chi that swept out shook the void and was about to tear apart the energy shield. However, before Tsing Hui could slash at the energy shield in front of him, a strong sense of danger swept over him. In the next moment, he saw a shadow of a heavenly rock appear. Then, it turned into light and violently tore apart the void with a deafening whistle. It was so fast that it almost exceeded Tsing Hui's reaction speed. If Tsing Hui hadn't drawn out his deep red sword and released the sword chi contained in it, he wouldn't have been able to block the sword radiance formed by the remnant sword battle constitution. Bang! The two sword chis collided head-on in the void and instantly collapsed into countless tiny sword radiances that tore through the void. The power contained in each of these sword radiances was not inferior to the full-strength attack of a true energy realm expert when he activated his battle constitution. If the battlefield was not in the void but on the ground, the aftermath of these scattered sword chis would have been able to tear apart the ground within a radius of dozens of miles. Whoosh! After blocking the sword radiance with difficulty, Tsing Hui's figure retreated rapidly with a piercing look on his face. Although the sword radiance was shot at him, it was obviously not meant to kill him completely. It was precisely because this sword chi didn't have the intention to kill that the sword radiance that Tsing Hui burst out with the deep red sword was able to block it. Otherwise, the final result wouldn't have been a tie. Tsing Hui would have been directly pierced by the sword and his body would have been destroyed. How is this possible? You actually blocked my void sword shadow. In the void, a figure appeared. Just as Tsing Hui guessed, it was the Heaven Wei chess piece, the broken sword that almost killed him in the eastern wilderness world. At this moment, Cruel Sword's gaze towards Qing Su was filled with shock as well as a sliver of disbelief. The void sword shadow was his divine power. This divine power was not fancy, but its advantages were very obvious. First, it was fast. Second, it was fierce. It was fierce and indestructible. When fighting with the enemy, he only needed to use this divine power to quickly secure the victory. Sometimes, even if the opponent was an almighty, they would be caught off guard by the divine power that he used in advance. They would be at a disadvantage from the beginning until they were completely defeated and even killed. But now, dust cleansing stone. Other than the dust cleansing stone, there should be other materials. This material interferes with the space extremely seriously. It's almost to the extent that it can seal the space. Tsing Hui's gaze quickly swept across the energy boundary that enveloped him. He immediately understood the characteristics of the energy boundary. This is a treasure that I specially borrowed. It's called the hatred boundary. It's specially used to trap and kill cultivators like you who are proficient in the incarnation spell and teleportation spell. Even though the hatred boundary can't completely isolate the incarnation spell and teleportation spell of the high-level Son of Chaos, it can increase the difficulty of the incarnation spell and teleportation spell and prolong the time. This will cause the teleportation spell to go wrong and get lost in the space mezzanine. The space mezzanine can only be broken by powerful cultivators who are in the virtual shattering realm. Those who are below the virtual shattering realm will definitely die if they fall into the space mezzanine. In other words, using the teleportation spell is equivalent to courting death. There was a cruel smile on the broken sword's face. As for the incarnation spell, after the time has been extended, do you think I will give you the chance to sense the coordinates and send the incarnation spell? Hatred boundary. This is one of the symbolic treasures of the hatred holy man. I will record this scene with the shadow retaining stone. This object will be the evidence that you are the son of the hatred holy man and have sided with the Heaven Wei. As for using the incarnation spell and the teleportation spell to escape. Broken sword, do you really think that I am still the same as 2 years ago, unable to retaliate at all in front of you? Today, I want to see how an almighty like you is going to defeat me. Tsing Hui had already mentally prepared himself to be attacked by the broken sword a few days ago. Now that he was deep in the hatred boundary, not only did he not feel depressed, but he also let out a long roar and the deep scarlet sword exploded with sword radiance. The surging sword mind was so strong that broken sword, who was confident of victory, changed his expression. I will not give you the chance to use the shadow retaining stone. Furthermore, you have been stripped of your authority in the Sky Dome world. You will not be able to meet the sages in a short period of time. By the time you meet the sages, I will be able to kill you 10 times over. Especially when you are distracted by the Chaos Holy Hall, you will die even faster. Although you have learned some techniques from the Hidden Sword Master in these 2 years, you are still only in the Aurus Core stage. Even if you can unleash the power of your Aurus Core, what can you do? I have even killed a real Aurus Core stage expert, let alone you. I would like to see how many times your Aurus Core can withstand your attacks. The pressure brought by the explosion of Tsing Hui's sword mind had indeed caused Broken Sword's expression to change. However, he had absolute confidence in his own cultivation. Not only did he not retreat, he also shouted and the heavenly rock sacred body produced a void sword shadow that shot out crazily. The power and speed of the sword radiance were not inferior to Tsing Hui's sword radiance at all. This sword chi, Tsing Hui's expression turned serious. His sword mind rose and the sword chi of the deep scarlet sword soared into the sky. Sword radiance whistled and shot out. Attack! Attack! Attack again! This was the only method of the extreme sword Dao. Using a storm of attacks to leave the opponent no room to breathe, until the opponent was completely killed. In an instant, streaks of sword radiance collided violently in the void. The attack between the two could be said to be at full strength. Countless streaks of sword chi shot out in all directions in the process of the collision, cutting the void in a radius of tens of kilometers into pieces. The sharp and fragmented sword chi was enough to crush any true energy stage expert who recklessly stepped into this area into powder. Such an outcome immediately caused Broken Sword's expression to turn serious. He was also a heavenly talent who had condensed the holy body. He had also received careful guidance from the Li Hen Holy Man and the Zhu Zhao Holy Man, two supreme giants of the divine stage. He had already explored the power of his own abhijna to the extreme. Among the many Aura's core stage cultivators who had cultivated ordinary abhijna, he was definitely an outstanding existence. However, now that he had unleashed his abhijna, it was actually unable to do anything to Tsing Hui, a mere Aura's core stage cultivator. This scene was unbelievable. Impossible. No matter how fast his growth is, it is impossible for him to reach a level that is not inferior to the great beings in a short 2 years. There must be a flaw. Broken Sword's thought process was extremely fast and his eyes shone brightly. Battles were never purely a contest of brute force. In the next moment, he seemed to have sensed something and a trace of joy flashed across his face. Attack! Attack! His strength is completely built on the attack formed by the sharp sword chi. As long as I avoid his strongest attack, I can change between real and illusory and directly kill his original body. I will definitely be able to defeat him in one fell swoop. Broken Sword, who had seen through Tsing Hui's weakness, immediately stopped fighting head-on with Tsing Hui. His figure suddenly flashed and the void sword shadow continuously shot towards Tsing Hui. At the same time, he was also multitasking. A sharp sword radiance followed closely behind the void sword shadow and slashed towards Tsing Hui. Tsing Hui, who had blocked the void sword shadow, was completely unable to block the other sword radiance and was instantly pierced through by that sword radiance. That's it. It's really like this. His strength is only in his attack. His attack has reached the level of the Aura's core stage, but his transformation, movement and defensive methods are still at the level of the Aura's core stage. No, not the Aura's core stage, it is even inferior to the Aura's core stage. The sword hit its target and his guess was confirmed. Broken Sword's eyes instantly lit up. His attack is still not strong enough, and Tsing Hui felt that the wound on his body that was pierced by the sword radiance was rapidly healing and his brows furrowed. Then, let's make it stronger. Chapter 501. Divine Skill. Furthermore, it was a level 6 divine skill. As Tsing Hui used the divine skill, Tsing Hui seemed to feel a kind of blessing from the heavens. The mysterious tracks between heaven and earth became less mysterious in front of his eyes. It seemed that as long as he could immerse himself in it, he could completely integrate into those mysterious tracks and rules, and receive the blessing of the supreme power between heaven and earth. Celestial Body. This was the realm of Celestial Body. Savage Sword, who was gradually gaining the upper hand in changing his tactics, immediately sensed the change in Tsing Hui's aura, especially the mysterious aura on him. He was definitely not wrong. The peak of the Sage Realm, the realm of Celestial Body. However, facing Tsing Hui who used the divine skill, Savage Sword's face did not show any fear. Instead, he showed a trace of coldness. Divine skill. And it looks like your divine skill is above level 6. However, you have to know that you're not the only one in this world who has the divine skill. Why do you think I, Savage Sword, can kill powerful figures time and time again, and those so-called powerful figures do not even have the chance to escape in front of me? I rely on the power of the divine skill. I don't know what level your divine skill is at, but it's definitely not higher than mine. Because. Boom. In the next moment, an even more terrifying aura burst out from Savage Sword. As this aura burst out, the power of his entire body seemed to intertwine into a network in the void. This network itself did not have the ability to manifest into the real world, but with the power of the Lihan Heaven realm, some kind of special qualitative change happened faintly, causing the entire Lihan Heaven realm to change into another form, a form of a realm. My divine skill, level 10. After using the divine skill, Savage Sword's entire body's power intertwined with the Lihan Heaven realm, and his aura soared countless times. He was like a powerful figure with a realm, suppressing all directions. Level 10. Tsing Hui's pupils suddenly shrank. Savage Sword had actually raised his divine skill to level 10. It was the same level as esteemed Zhu Zhao. Obviously, he planned to walk the same path as esteemed Zhu Zhao, and raise his recovery and divine skill to level 10. Although he did not know what level Savage Sword's recovery ability was, a level 10 divine skill was enough to instantly reverse the situation between him and Tsing Hui. Be it the cooldown or duration of a 10th grade divine art, it's far beyond what I can compare to. Broken sword strength is also above mine. He even saw through the mystery of my backtrack art and purposely borrowed a domain-type treasure like the Morning Heaven realm that can seal off space, desperate. Savage Sword's various arrangements and his own terrifying power directly forced Tsing Hui into a desperate situation. I have already arrived outside the Hidden Sword sect a few months ago, and have been waiting for you to be alone. Today, Hidden Sword Venerable has left for some reason, and you have finally fallen into my hands. I have perfectly calculated all your moves, and no one can save you. Even if you want to tell Zhu Zhao, and let him send his incarnation down to die with me, it will be useless. This place is affected by the power of the Lihan Heaven realm, and no one can send their incarnation down. Today, you will not be able to escape. Savage Sword laughed wildly. After waiting bitterly for 2 years, it was finally time for the final harvest. This kind of satisfaction naturally made him happy. Tsing Hui, hand over your chaos incantation and the supreme treasure that can raise your chaos level to such a high level, and then sign this chaos agreement, and become my subordinate, and I can give you a way out. Otherwise, death will be your only end. Not necessarily. Tsing Hui looked at Savage Sword in front of him. He knew that he had no chance of winning in a head-on battle against the broken sword that possessed a level 10 divine technique. Not a single one of the many characteristics that the Son of Chaos possessed could save him. Even his teleportation technique could be affected by the morning celestial realm, causing him to be teleported into a spatial mezzanine before being torn to shreds by the spatial storms. Conventional methods had lost their meaning. If he wanted to turn the situation around, or even defeat Savage Sword, or even kill him, there was only one way: accept my challenge. A token suddenly appeared in Tsing Hui's hand. A token that contained a mysterious chaos aura. Seeing this token, Savage Sword seemed to suddenly think of something, and his victorious face suddenly showed a trace of fear. No. Then the shadow of the heavenly rock appeared behind him, and at full speed, tried to stop Tsing Hui's next move. Unfortunately, it was too late. War of Chaos. Rumble. Chaos Temple. A violent roar came from Tsing Hui and Savage Sword's personal space at the same time. In the chaos space outside the personal space, they seemed to see a new space rapidly descending. Chaos Battlefield. That was the chaos battlefield formed after the token of the world of battle was used. The moment the chaos battlefield was formed, Tsing Hui directly separated a part of his consciousness and projected it into the chaos battlefield. I'll kill you. Savage Sword roared, and a terrifying divine sense that was several times more powerful than before suddenly came crashing down. It's useless. My consciousness has already entered the battlefield of chaos. Even if you kill me, my consciousness can still continue the battle of chaos, and my body will be resurrected a day later. Therefore, unless you can last a day in the battle of chaos, you will be defeated and stripped of your chaos rank. Of course, you can also choose to drag the battle of chaos between individuals into a battle of chaos between groups. However, both of us are part of the Celestial Vault, so if you choose to fight as a group, I will be more than happy. If we fight as a group, the Celestial Vault and the others will definitely be alarmed. When that happens, they will definitely ask the sword wielder to sense our location. Even if they can't directly descend to this area, they can still descend nearby using the coordinates of the other Sons of Chaos on the Hidden Sword continent. I have already used the backtracking technique, which means that I can last for a day. One day is enough for them to rush over to protect me and expose your true identity. Damn it! Savage Sword had made a lot of calculations, but he had miscalculated the special existence of the token of the World of Battle. The token of the World of Battle, coupled with the almost unsolvable backtracking spell, allowed Tsing Hui to buy himself one day. Unless he could survive the cooldown of Tsing Hui's backtracking spell, otherwise, you have never experienced the chaos battle. Even if your chaos level is extremely high, so what? I'd like to see how you can defeat me in one day on the battlefield of the chaos battle. Savage Sword immediately projected his consciousness into the chaos battlefield. At the same time, he waved his hand and directly released an alchemy puppet at the level of the gold elixir realm. After the alchemy puppet was activated, it directly rushed toward Tsing Hui. The purpose of this alchemy puppet was not to kill Tsing Hui, but to harass and torture him. There was no point in killing Qing Su, who had the ability to backtrack. Instead, it was better to keep his body alive so that the alchemy puppets could harass and torture him, so that he would be affected by his main body during the battle against the chaos, and thus be unable to perform properly. The chaos battlefield. Tsing Hui projected his consciousness and immediately felt that his strength had plummeted. In addition to his powerful divine soul, this body that was identical to the Chaos Temple was so weak that it was only at the awakening realm. It has flesh and blood, and it looks exactly like the Chaos Temple. This power is really amazing. Tsing Hui sensed his own state and looked around. He was now in a tavern at the entrance of the forest. The path outside the tavern led straight to a huge forest. Tsing Hui could sense that the battlefield of the chaos battle was in the forest. If anyone was more than 10 kilometers away from the forest, the chaos battle would be declared a failure. Withdrawing his gaze, Tsing Hui looked at the people in the tavern. In addition to the waiter, the shopkeeper, and others, there were 6 tables of guests in the tavern. There were men and women, and their common characteristic was that their aura was amazing. Although the people at the 6 tables had powerful auras, there were no signs of cultivation on their bodies. Instead, they possessed boundless power of qi and blood. They were like terrifying ferocious beasts. Just by standing there, they could form a great pressure. What a powerful power of blood and qi. Qi and qi have the characteristic of interfering with divine soul attacks. It is because of this that divine beasts and holy beasts, who have weak divine souls, can avoid being directly killed by cultivators using secret mind techniques. The 22 people at the 6 tables have powerful qi and their strength is no less than that of level 4 or 5 fierce beasts. Some of them are even comparable to level 6 fierce beasts. Even if I wanted to kill them with sword intent, I would have to do it one by one. When I killed them with sword intent, they had already pounced on me and destroyed my fragile body, causing my chaos battle to fail. Qing Su glanced at these people and quickly thought back to them. When he first learned that Tianxiong was facing the threat of the chaos battle, he deliberately flipped through many scrolls on the chaos battle. He guessed what was happening in front of him and could not help but look at these people. Soon, Tsing Hui's gaze fell on a table of 4 people. The cultivation of this table of people was not high. 2 were level 4 and 2 were level 5. However, the grades of their weapons were relatively low. Some of their weapons were even of an unrated standard. This discovery made his heart skip a beat. There is one thing that I hope the 4 of you can help me with. Tsing Hui went directly to the table of people. Oh. What is it? Tell me. The leader of the four people, a level 5 man, looked at Tsing Hui and said in a deep voice. I need you to find someone for me. As for the reward, Tsing Hui's gaze fell on the saber of one of the level 4 men. With a wave of his hand, he directly threw an advancement technique. Immediately, the man felt his weapon flash and became sharper than before. This sudden change made the man surprised and bewildered. He looked at Tsing Hui with eyes full of questions. The others also looked at Tsing Hui. God's chosen one. However, the leader of the four people seemed to think of something. His expression changed slightly. At the same time, he stood up and bowed slightly to Tsing Hui. Greetings, Your Excellency. Captain of the Red Tiger Squad, Huya. God's chosen one. A God's chosen one who has the means to surpass the rules. It is said that every God's chosen one has a God-given technique. The effects of those divine techniques are extremely wonderful and unbelievable. I didn't expect a God's chosen one to patronize this small tavern. As the man understood Tsing Hui's origin, the eyes of the people at several tables in the tavern fell on Tsing Hui at the same time. There was a lot of discussion. We are very satisfied with your reward. Do you have any orders? Huya looked at the strengthened saber in the man's hand with some envy. Then, he turned to Tsing Hui and said respectfully. I need you to find someone for me. If you find him, I will reward you handsomely. If you can kill him, I will agree to any request within my power. Chapter 502. Any request that is within your power. A middle-aged man at the other table stood up. His majestic aura that was not inferior to a Class 6 direbeasts immediately suppressed everyone. I heard that the God's chosen one has a special ability that can resurrect the dead. If you can save my brother, I, Pang Long, will be at your disposal. The 5 men beside the middle-aged man, who were also Class 5 and Class 6, stood up as well. If you can save the captain, the rest of the Black Dragon squad will be at your disposal. Tsing Hui's gaze swept across the 6 of them. 2 Class 6 powerhouses and 4 Class 5 powerhouses. Even he would not be able to deal with this lineup if they all came at him at the same time. In the chaos battlefield, Tsing Hui and Savage Sword had suppressed their cultivation to the same level. As for their mental strength, he was confident that he was not inferior to Savage Sword. If he was not easy to deal with, Savage Sword would also have to spend a lot of effort to deal with them. Unfortunately, sorry, I don't know the resurrection technique. Aren't you God's chosen one bestowed with many divine arts? The resurrection technique is said to not be a top divine art for you God's chosen one. Why can't you do it? Do you think that we're not paying enough? If you're not satisfied, just tell us if you have any requests. A young-looking man among the 6 spoke emotionally. However, Tsing Hui glanced at him and ignored him. This scene instantly angered the young man. He suddenly stepped forward and glared at Tsing Hui as he yelled, I'm talking to you. Why aren't you answering me? Are you looking down on the Black Dragon squad? Tsing Hui's expression turned fierce. His sword intent surged, and his eyes glowed. Even though the young man's blood essence had the characteristic of dispersing the divine soul, the difference in cultivation between the two was too great. Under Tsing Hui's sword intent, he still felt his mind tremble. He groaned and stared at Tsing Hui with blood flowing out of his eyes. His face was filled with pain. The remaining members of the Black Dragon team were shocked. Just as they were about to take action, the vice-captain of the Black Dragon team, Pang Long, shouted, Sit down. Don't be rude to this God's chosen one. After he finished speaking, he hurriedly bowed to Tsing Hui. Esteemed Sir God, Little Tong is my elder brother's adopted son. He acted rashly because of his emotions. I apologize on behalf of Little Tong. Please forgive him. Xing Hui withdrew his gaze, no longer paying attention to Pang Long and the others. As his gaze swept across the people in the tavern again, the people in the tavern respected him because of his identity as a god's chosen one, and there was also a hint of reverence. The War of Chaos is different from what I imagined. Divine spells, backtracking, recovery, comprehension, and other abilities that benefit oneself are not of much use in the War of Chaos. On the contrary, abilities such as advancement, divine blessing, and appraisal are most effective in the War of Chaos, but, Xing Hui glanced at his Son of Chaos template. The most useful ability in the War of Chaos is the deduction technique. The War of Chaos usually lasts only 3 days. In 3 days, it's not easy to find the other party in such a large place, let alone defeat and kill them. In such a situation, the most useful ability is the deduction technique. 3 days. Other Sons of Chaos could have 3 days, but he, only 1 day. Before the backtracking status of the backtracking technique was activated, he had to kill Broken Sword and secure the victory of this War of Chaos. If Broken Sword chose to hide during this period, it would be very difficult for him to find Broken Sword in 1 day. Therefore, the deduction technique is a must, Xing Hui sighed. At this time, he could not help but be thankful that he had kept many deduction artifacts as backup. Otherwise, if he did not have enough deduction artifacts now, he would not be able to raise the chaos level even if he wanted to raise it by 1 level. After coming to a decision, Xing Hui did not waste any time. His gaze focused on the chaos interface for a moment, and the 49th level of the chaos level shot up to the 50th level in one go. With the original deduction aura and the additional gains from the Divine Grace Chamber of Commerce, now, there are only 69 deduction aura left. However, in addition to these 69 deduction aura, there are still 88 deduction aura from the Iron Jade Peak Lord, Zhou Cunyu. These items should have been handed over to the Hidden Sword Venerable, but the Venerable had still kept them with him in the name of safekeeping. If his life was really on the line, he would have no choice but to temporarily use up these deduction artifacts and find a way to replenish them when the time came. Now that the chaos level had reached the 50th level, Xing Hui first glanced at the new trait derived from his character template. Transformation technique. Xing Hui was slightly stunned. The new trait derived from the 50th level was the transformation technique. With a drop of the target's blood, the user could transform into the target's appearance and possess the target's remarkable abilities. The duration of the transformation was determined by the trait's level, attribute level, and life essence. Cooldown, 1 month. With the support of the special environment of the Chaos Battlefield, the cooldown time was only 2 hours. This trait, the effect was shocking. Possessing the target's remarkable abilities. Possessing both remarkable abilities. In other words, if his target was an almighty, wouldn't he be able to transform into an almighty and possess all the abilities of an almighty? This characteristic could come in handy in many situations, especially when it came to sneaking into certain forces to inquire about information, which was even more successful. However, Xing Hui did not forget his original intention. In the end, he did not hesitate to add this new trait to the deduction technique. The deduction technique allowed one to know Tai Chi and Yin and Yang, understand the 4 symbols and 5 elements, identify all things in the universe, and solve karma and reincarnation. I'd like to see what's so special about the deduction technique. Xing Hui thought to himself. Instantly, he activated the deduction technique to deduce the location of the remnant sword. The moment the deduction technique was activated, Xing Hui's mind became clear: the rules of the War of Chaos, the rules of the Chaos Battlefield, the size of the forest, the monsoon climate, the distribution of the environment, and many other information flashed through his mind. Finally, he came to a conclusion. There should be a small town on the opposite side of the forest. The small town was similar to the small tavern he was in. In addition, they had only stepped into the Chaos Battlefield for a short time. It was very likely that the remnant sword was still in the small town and had not left. After coming to this conclusion, Tsing Hui immediately recovered from the mysterious state. After a while, he came to a realization. This is the deduction technique. Knowing the Tai Chi Yin and Yang, understanding the 4 symbols and 5 elements, distinguishing all things in the universe, solving karma and reincarnation. The art of deduction was to deduce the information that the user wanted to deduce from the details of the environment, material matters, and even the details of human relationships. Although the information obtained was somewhat vague and could not be considered accurate, but it could undoubtedly point him in the right direction. Amazing! Tsing Hui was once again impressed by the many traits derived from the Chaos Temple. The cooldown time of the deduction technique was originally 1 month. Under the special environment of the Chaos battlefield, it has been shortened to 2 hours. In a while, I will deduce the origins of the several major changes in the War of Chaos. Tsing Hui's somewhat confused situation suddenly became clear. Your Excellency, God's chosen one, may I know the target you are looking for and what kind of opponent you need to deal with? At this time, a man in his 30s came forward from his table and asked in a deep voice. My target is a God's chosen one like me. His strength is also on par with mine. His current location should be in a town on the opposite side of the forest. He should also be recruiting strong people. Fallen Maple Town. The man was slightly surprised. Fallen Maple Town is the only cargo town outside the Lost Forest. There are many experts and powerful teams coming and going in seclusion there. Oh. Can you tell me about the experts in Fallen Maple Town? And this Lost Forest, what powerful beasts and ferocious beasts are there? It would be our pleasure. The man said and immediately introduced the information of Fallen Maple Town and the Lost Forest truthfully. The Lost Forest was vast, spanning 5,000 to 6,000 kilometers. This distance was naturally nothing for Tsing Hui, who had the 12th Order flying sword, Sky Splitter. He could cross it in less than 2 hours, but now, he did not even have true Qi in his body. It was not easy for him to travel through the Lost Forest on his flying sword. In addition, there were many powerful ferocious beasts in the Lost Forest, ranging from the 4th Order to the 10th Order. The species were mainly tigers and leopards. It was said that the strongest was a white tiger of the 10th Order. White tiger. I don't have the blood of the white tiger. It is just wishful thinking to use the power of the white tiger to win. Besides the white tiger, many beasts have the blood of the dragon, but it is still useless. I also don't have the blood of the azure dragon. Tsing Hui carefully weighed this information. During the conversation, unknowingly, 2 hours had passed. Although a lot of time had been wasted, Tsing Hui was not too anxious. Sharpening the axe would not delay the work of cutting firewood. The battle of chaos had always been about accumulating advantages, and then giving the target a fatal blow at the most critical moment to determine the victory. The deduction technique has cooled down. Then I will start to deduce where the few big variables are. Wait, before I deduce these variables, I might as well deduce how the chaos level of the broken sword can improve its own characteristics. Tsing Hui's eyes flashed. The deduction technique was activated again. For a time, countless information flashed through his mind. Since the broken sword had chosen to follow the path of esteemed Zhu Zhao, in addition to the divine technique, its recovery characteristics must not be low. But from his journey from Heaven Wasteland to the Eastern Wilderness, his recovery level had not reached the 10th Order, but was around the 8th Order. In addition, although the broken sword had entered the first step of the Heavenly Vault, it seemed to be a little difficult. This might be related to the fact that its improved characteristics were not suitable for the Battle of Chaos, but it could also be inferred that its chaos level was at most 27 or 28, and at most 29. Some rumors that he had occasionally heard flashed through his mind again. The broken sword had the incarnation technique, a personal space, and it could accommodate large flying weapons. It had also condensed a high-grade golden core with the help of the mutation of comprehension, and was talented in the sword way, etc. Finally, the detailed data jumped out in front of him. The broken sword's chaos level was at most 28. The divine technique was at the 10th order, the recovery characteristics were at the 8th order, the personal space was at the 2nd order, the comprehension was at the 5th order, the sword way talent was at the 2nd order, and the incarnation technique was at the 1st order. The result of this deduction was not far from the truth. Chapter 503. Among the many traits, only sword Dao talent, perception, and personal space can be of use. In a small town like this, personal space won't have much of an impact. Furthermore, this isn't a kingdom war, so personal space can't be used to transport resources through personal space. As for sword Dao talent, it might be of some use, but it's unlikely for a Tier 2 sword Dao talent to gain the recognition of a top-notch swordsman. Thinking of this, Tsing Hui's eyes flashed, and his gaze fell on the man again. Is there any big force in Maple Town recruiting disciples? This. Behind the fallen Maple Town stands the top sect, Maplewood Sect. There is an office of Maplewood Sect there. If there really is a cultivator with excellent talent, the deacon of Maplewood Sect's office will certainly accept him as a disciple. Then, he will wait for the opportunity to return to the sect once a month to recommend him back to the sect. The man pondered for a while. Maple Forest Sect. How strong is Maple Forest Sect? What's the cultivation of the deacon? The Maple Forest Sect is one of the 3 most powerful tycoons of the southern country. Those who can become deacons of the Maple Forest Sect generally have the cultivation of the 6th transformation or above. I don't know the specific cultivation of the deacon of the Maple Forest Town, but I think it shouldn't be lower than the 6th transformation or higher. 6 transformations to 7 transformations, the cultivators in this world were divided into 9 realms, called the 9 transformations of dragon, which faintly corresponded to level 1 to level 9 of ferocious beasts. The breakthrough of each level was the transformation of the body and the sublimation of strength. The level 10 was called the True Dragon Realm. The True Dragon Realm, the equivalent of level 11, the Holy Dragon Realm, and the Divine Dragon Realm were the 3 strongest realms in this world. The gap between each realm was not as exaggerated as the Golden Elixir Realm and the Divine Realm, but it maintained a relatively stable increase. A level 6 transformations expert was nothing, but if it was a level 7 transformations expert, it would often take 10 level 6 transformations experts to take him down. Tsing Hui glanced at the man. The man was very proficient in this kind of information. If he could go to Maple Town, he would certainly be able to inquire about whether Savage Sword had joined Maple Forest Sect. Unfortunately, time waits for no one. He only had 1 day. To be exact, less than 20 hours. Even if this man had a cultivation of the 6th rank, he still had some tricks up his sleeves. It would take him 1 or 2 days to go back and forth through this 6,000-kilometer wide forest. Your Excellency, if Your Excellency is worried that the deacon of the Maple Forest Sect will intervene in the battle between you two, you might as well ask young Master Shui Yun of the Maple Forest Sect to intervene. Young Master Shui Yun is the younger brother of young Master Yunlong, a core disciple of the Maple Forest Sect. Young Master Yunlong is a figure who has the qualifications to compete for the position of sect leader of the Maple Forest Sect. His cultivation has also stepped into the 8th transformation. Throughout the Maple Forest Sect, let alone the deacons, even the ordinary elders will give him face. With young Master Shui Yun's intervention and Your Excellency's special identity as a God's chosen, the deacon of the Maple Forest Sect will certainly make the correct choice. Young Master Shui Yun. What are the conditions to invite him? Young Master Shui Yun has a good sword. If you have a treasure sword as a gift, young Master Shui Yun will definitely be overjoyed. Treasure sword. Tsing Hui had already understood that the cultivators of this world, due to the cultivation of blood qi and brute force, did not place the divine weapons popular in the divine wilderness in their eyes. After all, the divine weapons popular in the divine wilderness were operated by true qi and true yuan. Moreover, they had to support the strength of the various battle constitutions. But the cultivators of this world only had one requirement for divine weapons: toughness, sharpness, and the ability to direct energy. This was the complete opposite of the characteristics of the divine weapons in the divine wilderness. Fortunately, although he did not have a top-notch divine weapon in this world, he could still forge one. The level of the advancement technique was too low, but the divine protection technique could come in handy at such a crucial moment. I understand. The only variable that Broken Sword had was the deacon of the Maplewood sect with the 6th transformation and possibly 7th transformation. The 7th transformation was roughly equivalent to a true Yuan boundary expert. Due to their powerful blood qi, they had a strong resistance to the power of the divine soul. Unless Tsing Hui's mental strength broke through to the 120th level or above, it would be difficult to kill him in a short period of time. If he could not kill him in a short period of time, his weak body would be blown to smithereens. Therefore, this factor had to be eliminated. The key to eliminating this factor was young Master Shui Yun, and the other was the trump card to kill Broken Sword. At this moment, Tsing Hui was not in a hurry. While waiting for the cooldown of the deduction technique, he said, "Your information is very useful to me. I can forge a divine weapon for you, but the prerequisite is that you have the refining method, the materials, and the refining furnace. I can give you 2 hours." Hearing this, the man was immediately overjoyed. "Thank you, sir." Saying so, he quickly turned to his other friends and used his fastest speed to either borrow or buy materials. The others looked at the man with eyes full of envy. The God's chosen one often had incredible power. Similar to the ability to forge divine weapons for others, it was not unheard of. Unfortunately, the God's chosen one was rare and could only be found by chance. Even if they had heard of the rumors of the God's chosen one, they could not bring out anything or benefits that would satisfy the God's chosen one. In less than an hour, the man had gathered all the materials one by one and started the refining furnace. When the furnace was opened, Tsing Hui just threw a divine protection technique into it. Naturally, he did not need to worry about anything else. After settling the matter, the cooldown of the deduction technique was almost over. Tsing Hui once again used the deduction technique to deduce the biggest variable on the chaos battlefield. Under the state of the deduction technique, the bits of information collected during this period of time all flashed through his mind like passing shadows. Finally, he locked onto a mysterious expert. It was a middle-aged man who had entered the forest yesterday and was suspected to be an expert in the 8th change. The 8th change should be the strongest existence in this scene. The peak existence in the Nanta Kingdom is the real Dragon Realm, which is equivalent to a level 10 expert. These people are all elusive. Of course, the mysterious level 10 White Tiger must be one of the big variables. Whoever can persuade it will probably win the game. Unfortunately, there are too few practitioners of the White Tiger bloodline above level 8. At least, I can't do anything about it. If I want to win in one day, I have to work on this expert in the 8th change. Tsing Hui recalled the whereabouts of the expert in the 8th change that he had deduced. He immediately left the tavern and chased in the direction that the expert had left. Although he had a flying sword, the distance from here to Fallen Maple Town could not be considered close, so he had to set out in advance. Otherwise, even if he had grasped all the variables in his hands, it would still be difficult for him to escape the fate of defeat when one day was up. Flying on his sword, Tsing Hui soon stepped into the lost forest. After estimating the speed of the mysterious expert in the 8th change, he moved forward at a moderate pace. Another 2 hours later, he once again used the deduction technique to enter that mysterious state. All kinds of information about the opponent flashed through his mind again. At the same time, some details came into his mind, such as the tragic death of a certain ferocious beast on the road, the destruction of some trees caused by the battle, and so on. After the deduction, Tsing Hui slightly adjusted his direction and chased for another hour. Then, a fierce battle fluctuation appeared in front of him. Judging from the momentum, it should be, Tsing Hui turned the tip of his sword and directly came to the direction of the battle fluctuation. He just happened to see an expert whose blood force had reached the 8th level. He was like an Archean ferocious beast, holding a huge sword that was as heavy as a mountain. With a swing of his sword, the power shattered the vacuum and killed a 6th-level ferocious beast in front of him. After killing that ferocious beast, the mysterious expert seemed to have sensed Tsing Hui's spying. He immediately turned around, clenched his fist, and punched out. Suddenly, the air was compressed by his terrifying power and bombarded Tsing Hui like an air cannon. If Tsing Hui was not in the air and hundreds of meters away from him, the power of this blow would have been enough to smash him into pieces. "Sir, please stop. I mean no harm," Tsing Hui shouted. His figure flashed, and he avoided the man's attack. He can actually walk in the air without relying on momentum. A true Dragon Realm expert? No. Even a true Dragon Realm expert can't hover in the air. Looking at Tsing Hui, who was flying on his sword, the man's eyes were still full of vigilance. "You can call me a God's chosen one. I need your help with something, and in return, I can promise you a condition." "A God's chosen one?" The man's eyes suddenly lit up. "If you can help me collect more than 10 blood grass from the overlord of the Lost Forest, the 9-traced blood python, I can promise you anything as long as your request does not exceed the limit of my strength." 9-traced blood python. Is this your request? Yes. The man nodded solemnly. In the end, he introduced himself. "I'm Shinchong. The people in the cultivation world have given me a nickname, Master Chong of the Void Sword. In terms of credibility, I'm quite famous. Sir, you can ask around. You should be able to find out what kind of person I am." Time was short, so Tsing Hui had to choose to believe the man who called himself Shinchong. Shinchong did not look like a sinister or cunning person, so he nodded. "I'll go with you. If possible, I'll try my best to bring you the blood grass." "Thank you very much, sir." Shinchong agreed happily. 9-traced blood python is a 9-change demonic beast, but the most troublesome thing is that this kind of demonic beast is an overlord. Not only does it possess great strength, but it can also control all the demonic beasts within hundreds of kilometers. Among these demonic beasts, there is no lack of 8-change demonic beasts. I can sneak into the blood-striped grass and bring it out, but the 9-traced blood python is extremely sensitive to the aura of the blood-striped grass. Once I am targeted by the 9-traced blood python, it will definitely chase after me endlessly. At that time, there will be countless 6-change, 7-change, or even 8-change demonic beasts surrounding me, and I will not be able to escape from its territory no matter what. However, you are different. You have the ability to fly, which is a shackle that cannot be broken by creatures below the real dragon realm. As long as you can bring the blood-striped grass and escape into the void, the 9-traced blood python will not be able to chase after you no matter how powerful it is. Tsing Hui nodded. "I hope things will go well." Chapter 504. Tsing Hui and Shinchong approached the forest where the 9-traced blood python was. As the 9-traced blood python was in the same direction as the Lost Forest, Tsing Hui did not need to worry about being delayed. The two of them continued forward and soon arrived at a large river with abundant water. They continued to walk along the river. As they walked along the river, Tsing Hui paid attention to Shinchong's cultivation method. Or rather, he was studying the cultivation system of this world. The cultivation system of this world was completely based on the refinement of one's own strength. It could be said that there was no genuine chi, no battle body, no magic treasure, and no other magic arts in their bodies. What they relied on was completely pure strength. Every cultivator looked like a living primordial fierce beast. Every word and action of theirs was filled with the beauty of exploding strength. However, it was they who interweaved this pure strength into a system that allowed them to perfectly explode this strength, forming a strength that was not inferior to that of a level 8, level 9, or even level 10 or level 11. It was even equivalent to the strength of a celestial phenomenon of Earth. Their pure strength has actually reached such a realm. A look of inquiry flashed in Xing Hui's eyes. The most important aspect of the extreme sword Dao was to condense one's essence, qi, and spirit into one's life divine sword. From there, one would be able to explode with a killing power that far exceeded those of the same level. The cultivation system of the divine wilderness was destined to allow cultivators to make good use of their true qi and spirit. For example, their battle physique and divine abilities were in fact transformations of their true qi and spirit. It was just imitating a top divine beast, allowing the battle physique to awaken the various divine abilities of divine beasts and sacred beasts, allowing one's battle strength to surpass ordinary cultivation systems. But for one's own essence qi, it could not be considered outstanding. At the very least, if Qing Su's true qi was sealed up and the souls of the Golden Crow and the Seraphic Dragon were destroyed, his cultivation that was equivalent to a Golden Core cultivator would definitely plummet. Even a prominent saint cultivator would not need to expend too much effort to kill him. His battle prowess would basically be halved. But for Shenchong in front of him, Your Excellency Shenchong, I want to exchange a cultivation method for you cultivators. What do I need to exchange? Cultivation method? Shenchong could not help but be taken aback by Xing Hui's words. After a moment of hesitation, he said, the cultivation method in my hand is a secret of our sect. I'm afraid I cannot give it to Sir. However, I obtained a secret method when I was adventuring outside. It can allow a cultivator to cultivate to the 9 transformations. If Sir needs it, I can give it to Sir after the matter is completed. Thank you very much. Xing Hui nodded. Yes, we'll reach the core area of the 9 traces blood python after walking along this river for a period of time. If we encounter any 6 traces, 7 traces, or even 8 traces blood pythons along the way, it's best to avoid them as much as possible. Otherwise, we'll easily be surrounded by a huge number of demonic beasts once there's a battle. Xing Hui nodded. Since they were in the territory of the 9 traces blood python, they naturally had to be careful. The two of them continued forward. On the way, they did encounter many demonic beasts with tyrannical auras. Among them, there was an 8 traces blood python lying on the side of the river. It was like a small city wall. It was 3 meters thick and nearly 100 meters long. The scales on its body were overflowing with cold light. Xing Hui estimated that if he did not inject his qi into it, even a level 10 or level 11 divine weapon would not be able to pierce through the scales of this blood python. After all, the divine weapons in the cultivation system of the divine wilderness were mainly integrated into the battle body and qi. It was no wonder that the cultivators of this world only required sharpness and toughness for their weapons. It's just ahead. Xing Hui and Shenchong continued forward and finally appeared outside a rather muddy mud pit. Looking up, they could see a terrifying giant beast the size of a mountain lying on the ground, quietly sleeping. On the ground not far from it, there were 20 to 30 blood-red grasses dotted among the weeds. These blood-red grasses were the target of Xing Hui and Shenchong. Can you lure this demonic beast away? Xing Hui asked. Yes. But, a 9 changes demonic beast is powerful enough to destroy a city and a country. With my ability, dealing with it for a while is already the limit. If it wants to escape and chase after you, I can't stop it. At that time, all the danger will be transferred to you. It doesn't matter. Xing Hui's expression was calm. Those demonic beasts can't catch up with me. If we really get separated for some other reason, we'll meet up at the place where we met. Okay. Shenchong nodded with a serious expression. Then, he jumped and rushed in the direction of the blood grasses. However, when he was less than a kilometer away from the 9-traced blood python, the 9-traced blood python seemed to have sensed something. Its closed eyes suddenly opened, and a tyrannical and ferocious light burst out of them. Roar! It was obviously a snake, but the 9 traces blood python let out a roar like that of a real dragon. Then, its huge body swept out with incredible agility, and in an instant, it rushed toward Shenchong. Shenchong, who was rushing toward the blood grasses, felt the monstrous ferocity of the 9 traces blood python. He suddenly turned his body and exerted force on his feet. The ground under his feet shattered like a bomb, and countless dust splashed out. With the help of this counterforce, his whole body shot out like a cannonball. In an instant, he swept across thousands of meters in the void. The moment his body shot out, he broke the sound barrier and made a deafening roar. Tsing Hui's pupils shrank. The strength of the body can be strengthened to such an extent. How on earth did the cultivators in this world do it? Rumble. The 9 traces blood python seemed to regard the sound barrier as a provocation. The 9th-ranked demonic beast roared and swept out a roar. It crushed a huge ditch in the ground and chased after Shenchong. Its momentum could shake the earth and shake the mountains. It could easily turn the area within a few kilometers into ruins. This kind of pure violence was an eye-opener for Tsing Hui. It's about time. Tsing Hui estimated that the 9 traces blood python was gradually getting farther away. He did not waste any more time and immediately rushed toward the 20 to 30 blood grasses. However, before he could reach the blood grasses, a huge head suddenly emerged from the quagmire in front of him. The 8 traces blood python. A terrifying demonic beast at the 8 changes level. In addition to the 9 traces blood python, there was a terrifying demonic beast at the 8 changes level guarding this place. Obviously, it was there to protect the blood grasses. Hiss. As soon as the 8 changes level blood python appeared, it let out an ear-piercing cry. Immediately, the 9 traces blood python, which had been chasing after Shenchong for some distance, let out an angry roar and quickly turned back. The sound of its huge body crushing the ground was getting closer and closer. It was estimated that it would reach Tsing Hui in a dozen breaths. 8 traces blood python. Qing Su's eyes narrowed when he saw the blood python. In the next moment, he used a teleportation technique without any hesitation at all, directly crossing over to the side of the blood-patterned grass. He extended his hand on the ground and opened up his personal space. Under the furious roar of the 8-lined blood python, he directly sucked all the blood-patterned grass within a radius of 3,000 meters into his personal space. Even the soil was sucked into his personal space. Very good. Shenchong, this variable, has been controlled. With the help of an 8th rank expert, we can directly kill Broken Sword in the fallen Maple Town and end this war of chaos. Hiss. Seeing that the blood grasses had disappeared, the 8 traces blood python let out an angry roar and directly rushed toward Tsing Hui. Tsing Hui, who had originally planned to escape by riding his sword, had an idea. He directly stretched out his hand toward the 8 traces blood python and opened his personal space, forming a layer of space ripples visible to the naked eye. It seemed that the 8 traces blood python was going to enter his personal space. The 8 traces blood python instinctively felt the danger and was unwilling to enter Tsing Hui's personal space. However, the personal space had an irresistible property to accommodate living things. If the 8 traces blood python did not want to enter the personal space, it could completely ignore this layer of ripples and kill Tsing Hui's body. However, at the critical moment, Tsing Hui quickly piled up the blood grasses in his personal space at the entrance of the personal space. Seeing so many blood grasses in front of it, the 8 traces blood python did not hesitate and directly rushed into the personal space, trying to take the blood grasses out. Unfortunately, how could the wisdom of demonic beasts be compared with that of human beings? As soon as the 8 traces blood python entered his personal space, Tsing Hui directly threw it into the deepest corner. After all, the personal space of the Qing ruins had already reached 1,000 kilometers in size. No matter how fast and ferocious the 8 trace blood python was, how could it possibly cause any damage to the vast territory of over 1,000 kilometers? Xing Hui had marked out a territory of 1,000,000 kilometers and let the python do whatever it wanted. It could not cause any damage to Xing Hui's personal space. Phew! After taking the 8 traces blood python, Xing Hui's body flew up on his sword and directly broke through the sky to leave. The 9 traces blood python that was chasing after him roared again and again. However, it did not have the ability to fly and could only helplessly watch Xing Hui break through the sky and escape. Xing Hui, who had escaped into the void, did not dare to waste any time. In the Lost Forest, there were not only many demonic beasts on land but also a large number of birds. These demonic beasts were extremely unfriendly to humans. If he dared to recklessly fly in the void for a long time, it would be extremely dangerous once he was targeted by a powerful bird. After flying hundreds of kilometers away from the territory of the 9 traces blood python, Xing Hui quickly pressed down on the sword light and slightly chose a direction. He then flew towards the place where he first met Shinchong. After a short while, he arrived at his destination and waited quietly. He did not wait for too long before a roar came from afar. Then, he saw Shinchong, who had relied on pure strength to shoot himself like a cannonball, rapidly running towards him. Along the way, he encountered many trees. He either dodged them or used his valiant body and terrifying strength to smash them into smithereens. He was extremely barbaric and violent. Looking at him, Xing Hui really could not associate him with his nickname of the Void Rush Sword Sect. Mr. Seeing Xing Hui, Shen Chang's face immediately revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. We got it. However, we caused too much noise just now. That 9 traces blood python is extremely angry. It is very likely that it will set off a beast tide in this forest. Let's leave this place first. Yes, yes, yes. Let's leave this place quickly. Let's go to Maple Town. As Xing Hui spoke, he flew up on his sword. Although he did not dare to fly at a high altitude, flying at a low altitude was not a problem. Otherwise, with his body, which was only at the awakening realm, it would be impossible for him to catch up with Shen Chang's speed. Chapter 505. Fallen Maple Town. It took Xing Hui 4 hours to travel several thousand kilometers. After careful calculation, more than half a day had passed. I just used a deduction technique to calculate that the broken sword should still be in Fallen Maple Town and is under the protection of the mysterious deacon of the Maplewood sect. But it doesn't matter. As long as I can persuade young Master Shui Yun to come forward, the deacon will naturally tell me the location of the broken sword. Xing Hui stepped into Fallen Maple Town and inquired a little before arriving at young Master Shui Yun's residence. Young Master Shui Yun could be called the only big shot in this town. Although his cultivation was not very high, he could sit back and relax with young Master Yunlong behind him. Xing Hui and Shen Chong arrived at the town. After reporting Xing Hui's identity as a god's chosen, they were quickly invited into the courtyard by young Master Shui Yun. I didn't expect that my residence would be so lucky to have a god's chosen. Mister, please come in. At the entrance of the inner courtyard, young Master Shui Yun personally welcomed him and enthusiastically led him into the living room. Young Master Shui Yun. Xing Hui nodded slightly. Time was pressing, so he could not spend too much time on small talk. After a moment of courtesy, he went straight to the point. I heard that young Master Shui Yun is fond of swords. It just so happens that I have a sword refining technique. Young Master only needs the corresponding materials and sword recipe, and I can refine a satisfactory sword for young Master. After the matter is completed, I only need young Master to help me with a small matter. Oh. I have heard of the various miraculous abilities of gods chosen for a long time, but I didn't expect you to have such a wonderful technique. For a long time, I have been longing for the heavy light sword in the hands of Swordmaster Gu Zhong. Unfortunately, this is the famous sword of Swordmaster Gu Zhong. Swordmaster Gu Zhong will not part with it, so I can't ask for it. Since Mr. has such a wonderful technique, I wonder if you can forge this sword for me. If this sword is completed, I will do my best to help Mr.'s request. I have an opponent who should be under the protection of the deacon of the Maplewood Sect's fallen Mapletown branch. I am looking for young Master Shui Yun this time in the hope that young Master will step in and let him stand by and do nothing. This is a small matter. I am quite familiar with Maplewood Sect's Deacon Tanyu. If I just ask him to watch with folded arms, he will give me face. Alright, I'll have to trouble young Master Shui Yun to prepare the materials for the heavy light sword. That's great. I've long wanted to find a swordsmith to imitate the heavy light sword, but the standards of the swordsmiths I found were not satisfactory. They came at the right time. As young Master Shui Yun spoke, he impatiently stood up and gestured towards Tsing Hui. Immediately, the group of people turned around and headed toward the backyard. Young Master Shui Yun was backed by young Master Tsong Yun, a character who had a high chance of contending for the position of Maplewood Sect's sect leader in the future. His business in fallen Mapletown was naturally out of the ordinary. His courtyard had its own system, and he naturally had a blacksmith shop. Not only did he have a blacksmith shop, but because he revered famous swords and divine swords, the courtyard had several sword forgers enshrined all year round. The entire blacksmith shop appeared to be quite high-end. Even some of the shops in the bustling cities couldn't compare to his family's blacksmith shop. By the time Tsing Hui's group arrived at the blacksmith shop, someone who had already received the news had already prepared the materials for the heavy light sword. In addition, 2 master swordsmiths had already rushed over when they heard that Tsing Hui, the god's chosen one, was going to make a move. They surrounded the furnace and waited for Tsing Hui to show his skills. "Sir, what do we need to do?" As young Master Shui Yun spoke, he led the 2 master swordsmiths forward. Master Jin Shua and Master He Tong are 2 master swordsmiths who are enshrined in my residence. If there's anything you need, please don't hesitate to tell us. Although the 2 master swordsmiths had revered statuses, they didn't dare to be arrogant in front of Tsing Hui, the god's chosen one. They only said modestly, "Sir, if there's anything we can help you with, please don't hesitate to ask. It's fine. In fact, when it comes to understanding the way of swordsmithing, I can't be compared to the 2 master swordsmiths. It's just that I have some special methods that allowed me to forge the heavy light sword. I'll have to trouble the 2 master swordsmiths to order someone to start the fire." The 2 master swordsmiths smiled when they heard Tsing Hui's pleasant words. "Alright, I'll start the fire myself." The 2 master swordsmiths immediately ignited the fire. Tsing Hui didn't waste any time. He threw in all the materials for the heavy light sword and cast divine blessing on it. In the War of Chaos, many skills had extremely short cooldowns, including divine blessing. Seeing Tsing Hui's swordsmithing method without any rules, the 2 master swordsmiths were dumbfounded. Even young Master Shui Yun, who didn't know much about swordsmithing, was stunned. "Sir, you're..." "Young Master Shui Yun, just wait. It won't be long before the heavy light sword is finished. I've never heard of such a swordsmithing method." Young Master Shui Yun sighed in doubt. However, he secretly shot a glance at the guard, and the guard immediately backed off. Before long, Qing Su sensed several dozen 5th transformation and even 6th transformation experts surround the smithy. They surrounded the area where the smithy was. Clearly, young Master Shui Yun was already suspicious of Tsing Hui's methods. He vaguely treated him as a fraud. The reason why he didn't show any reaction was because the god's chosen was just too mysterious. He couldn't offend him easily. If Tsing Hui couldn't give him a satisfactory answer after the swordsmithing was completed, the cultivators surrounding the smithy would definitely swarm over and capture him alive. Sir, Shen Chong naturally sensed these people surrounding him, so he immediately reminded him softly. "It's fine." Tsing Hui stopped Shen Chong from saying anything else. He just waited quietly for the sword to be completed. This wait lasted for a whole 6 hours. Although it took a lot of patience, after 4 hours, the heavy light sword was unearthed. Even if the divine sword hadn't been further polished, young Master Hunyuan could already tell that even if this sword was inferior to the heavy light sword, it wouldn't be too far off. Immediately, young Master Hunyuan was overjoyed. Good, good, good. No wonder it's a God's chosen's divine technique. It really has incredible power. The two master swordsmiths were also greatly enlightened. This divine technique is simply unimaginable. There's no need to consider any technique at all. It's actually able to forge the heavy light sword that even ordinary master swordsmiths would find difficult to forge. This sword only needs to be polished properly. The final product definitely won't be inferior to the real heavy light sword. It's good that young Master Hunyuan is satisfied. Tsing Hui said with a faint smile. Ha ha ha, it's really my fortune to be able to see a God's chosen's divine technique. Servants, prepare some wine for me. I must properly entertain sir. There's no need for such trouble. Time is pressing. I'll have to trouble Sir Hunyuan to clarify things with Deacon Tanyu as soon as possible. Young Master Hunyuan glanced at the heavy light sword that only needed to be polished a little before it could display its sharpness. He nodded heavily. All right. Since Sir has spoken, I naturally can't waste Sir's time. I'll go with Sir to find Deacon Tanyu. As he spoke, he had already gestured with his hand and led Tsing Hui to a large courtyard not far from this courtyard. That was where the Maplewood Sex branch was located. It was less than 500 meters away from young Master Hunyuan's residence. The two were so close to each other, presumably for the sake of convenience. Under the guidance of young Master Hunyuan, the group arrived at the Maplewood Sex branch without any hindrance. Before they went to look for Deacon Tanyu, Tanyu had already taken a step forward to welcome them. He smiled and cupped his hands in greeting. Young Master, how come you have time to come visit me? Deacon Tan, I've come this time because I've been entrusted by this sir. I beg you to come. You're exaggerating, sir. If there's anything you need, feel free to tell me. If I can do it, I won't refuse. Then I'll let this sir speak to you. Young Master Hunyuan moved aside to let Tsing Hui pass. Ching Su immediately handed over a drawing he had asked someone to draw for him to Warden Tanyu. He said, I have a huge conflict with this person, so please tell me where he is, Warden Tan. If I've guessed correctly, he should be under the protection of Warden Tan's branch right now. Ha! Seeing the portrait Tsing Hui handed over, Tanyu's face changed slightly, but soon turned to doubt. This person. I haven't seen him before. Is your excellency mistaken? Ha! Seeing Tanyu's denial, Tsing Hui frowned. The next moment, he operated the deduction technique again. The final result made his expression turn slightly cold. It seems that young Master Hunyuan's face isn't useful. Or is it that Deacon Tanyu wants to protect him? Ha! Deacon Tan, what's the matter? Young Master Hunyuan's face immediately darkened. Young Master Hunyuan, it's not that I don't want to give you face, but I really haven't seen this person before. Tanyu's face was filled with embarrassment. Tsing Hui glanced at Tanyu. If Remnant Sword was only talented, Tanyu shouldn't have risked offending young Master Hunyuan to protect him. It seemed that, Remnant Sword should have promised Tanyu other benefits, which forced him to take the risk out of desperation. Deacon Tan, you have to think clearly. The reason I'm talking to you now is because of the Maplewood sect behind you. If it weren't for the Maplewood sect's feelings, do you think I would care about a little 7 changes cultivator like you? Tsing Hui's expression was indifferent. At the same time, he said to young Master Hunyuan, Young Master, it's not that I'm taking advantage of my power to bully you. It's just that some people don't give you face at all. If I can really find out the location of my enemy or related clues from this branch, I wonder if young Master can block the investigation from the Maplewood sect for me? Young Master Hunyuan pondered for a moment, and his expression became serious. If Mr. can really prove that Deacon Tan has protected your enemy, then I'll take responsibility for the investigation from the sect. Okay. Your Excellency Shen Chong. Tsing Hui said. Immediately, Shen Chong, who had been keeping a low profile, stepped forward. His gaze fell directly on Deacon Tan Yu. His aura surged, and the pressure of qi and blood, which was as thick as an abyss, made everyone present hold their breaths. Seeing Shen Chong suddenly appear, everyone present was shocked. Young Master Shui Yun and Tan Yu even exclaimed at the same time, "It's Shen Chong from the Void Rush Sword Sect." "It's actually Shen Chong from the Void Rush Sword Sect." Tan Yu's expression suddenly became extremely unsightly. The reason he dared to refuse young Master Shui Yun's request was that, on the one hand, his strength was tyrannical, and he didn't care about Tsing Hui, a god's chosen one. On the other hand, the benefits Remnant Sword brought him were too great. Therefore, he didn't hesitate to take the risk of offending young Master Shui Yun. But now, Deacon Tan Yu, are you still unwilling to hand him over? Or are you willing to sacrifice yourself for his sake? Shen Chong looked at Tan Yu and said expressionlessly. With his cultivation, it wasn't difficult to kill Tan Yu. Even capturing him alive and interrogating him would be easy. After all, young Master Shui Yun would bear the consequences of offending the Maplewood sect. He didn't have to worry at all. Naturally, he could act unscrupulously. Tan Yu's face revealed a trace of bitterness. This time, he really suffered a double loss. But under the pressure of Shen Chong, a famous expert in the 8th transformation, he had no choice but to yield. I'll take Mr. to that person's hiding place. Chapter 506. Tan Yu's words undoubtedly proved that Tsing Hui's enemy was indeed in this branch. A branch deacon actually dared to deceive him. This result immediately made young Master Shui Yun's face turn somewhat ugly. Tsing Hui had directly forged the heavy light sword for him, but he had nearly failed the task entrusted by Tsing Hui. This naturally made him rather furious. Deacon Tan, you'd better obediently hand over the person. Otherwise, a mere deacon title might not be able to protect you. I believe that many people would want to take up a position as lucrative as the Mapletown branch. Being threatened in terms of power by young Master Shui Yun and strength by the Chong Su sword sect, Tan Yu naturally felt extremely sullen. However, he could only put on a submissive expression. Rest assured, young master. I will personally lead everyone to capture the person. I will definitely not make things difficult for this mister. I hope so. Young Master Shui Yun snorted discontentedly. Under Tan Yu's lead, the group quickly arrived at a courtyard at the back of the Maple Forest sect branch. This courtyard was occupied by some servants. Who would have thought that a genius like Savage Sword, who had cultivated a remarkable ability and was proud and arrogant, would actually be willing to gather with a group of cooks and attendants in order to avoid Tsing Hui? Tan Yu led the group to a servant's room and pushed open the door. However, they discovered that Savage Sword's figure was nowhere to be seen in this room that was occupied by 4 people. There was only one servant who was tidying up his things. When this servant saw Tan Yu personally arrive, he was so frightened that he trembled. He hurriedly knelt down and saluted. Greetings, Deacon, let me ask you, where did the newcomer who lived with you, Zhou Longjian, go? Zhou Longjian. He left here 2 hours ago. I also don't know where he went. 2 hours ago, Tan Yu's expression immediately changed. Zhou Longjian, who was also Savage Sword, had actually left ahead of time. Clearly, he did not completely trust Tan Yu. Even relying on Tan Yu for protection was only a pretense. His purpose was to interfere with Tsing Hui's judgment and gain a day's time. As long as he could hold on for 1 day and wait for Tsing Hui's backtrack to end, he would be able to kill Tsing Hui in the real world and win the war against chaos. Sir, this, young Master Shui Yun could only turn his gaze to Tsing Hui. Tsing Hui carefully calculated the time. He only had 6 hours left. Once the 6 hours were up and the backtrack spell was completed, his aura would inevitably change. At that time, Broken Sword wouldn't just use a puppet to disturb him. He would definitely use a thunderous attack to kill him. Find him. Use every method you can to find him. Don't let go of any clues. After 2 hours, regardless of whether you find his final location or not, gather all the clues to me. Tsing Hui took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. The accuracy of the technique of divination was related to the specific information Qing Su possessed. The more information he possessed, the greater the chances of his divination succeeding. It was just like how he had been constantly divining that the damaged sword was hidden in the fallen Maple Town. This was all based on the information he possessed, and in reality, there was nothing wrong with his divination. The damaged sword had indeed been hidden in the fallen Maple Town, but he had been too cautious. After hiding for a period of time in the fallen Maple Town, he had actually gone into hiding silently after releasing a smoke bomb, which was why Qing Su had made a mistake in his divination and wasted a lot of time. What are you waiting for? Go and find him as soon as possible. Tell your men to go. Young Master Shui Yun said coldly to Tan Yu. Wait a moment. Qing Su thought of his divination earlier and immediately said, the damaged sword should still be in the fallen Maple Town. At this time, Tan Yu had also vented his resentment towards Broken Sword. In order to atone for his crime, he fiercely shouted towards the door, men, spread out. Even if we have to dig 3 feet into the ground of fallen Maple Town, we have to find that bastard. Yes. Along with a series of responses, the entire branch began to move rapidly. That Broken Sword is not a weakling. I'm afraid any cultivator below the 5th transformation is no match for him. It's best to have a 6th transformation expert leading the team. Even if those ordinary disciples are searching, it's best to have them pay close attention to each other's information and communicate with each other. Once someone stops responding, it's certain that they've found his location. Sir, don't worry. As long as he's in fallen Maple Town, he won't be able to escape. Young Master Shui Yun then said to the elite guards behind him, follow me. We'll search together. But young Master, the guards behind young Master Shui Yun immediately hesitated. What are you afraid of? Young Master Shui Yun glanced at Shin Chong and said, with an 8th transformation expert from the Void Rush Sword sect around, what can that person do? When the guards heard this, they were deeply convinced of Shin Chong's strength and immediately nodded solemnly, we'll have to trouble Master Shin Chong to protect young Master's safety. Everyone, don't worry. With me here, that villain definitely won't be able to do anything. The guards nodded and left one after another. Sir, don't worry. Although there are many people coming and going in fallen Maple Town, our Maple Forest sect has already made it impregnable. As long as he's still in fallen Maple Town, it won't take long for us to find him. Tan Yu advised in a low voice. I hope so. Tsing Hui replied in a low voice. Now, all that was left was to wait. Just as Tan Yu said, their control over the entire fallen Maple Town had reached the pinnacle. When they fully mobilized, no one could hide. Soon, someone sent news that they had lost contact with some of the branch members. By the time they found those members, they had already been killed on the mental plane. After hearing this result, Tsing Hui was no longer willing to sit here. He immediately led Shin Chong and the others to the location of the incident. Before the group arrived at the location of the incident, a series of exclamations suddenly came from not far away. There's no response from the 14th squad. They're at Luhui Alley. Luhui Alley. Surround that area. Let's go. Tsing Hui shouted. He immediately flew up on his sword and rushed towards the location of the sound. Young Master Shui Yun, Tan Yu, and the others followed closely behind. Tan Yu was constantly making hand signals. Many members of the Maple Forest Sect's branch quickly surrounded them from all directions. Soon, the area within a 1-mile radius was completely surrounded. Savage Sword, how much longer can you hide? Come out. Seeing that the area was completely sealed, Xing Hui let out a sigh of relief. At the same time, he stood in the void and shouted towards the area. The area below was silent. After a while, the door of one of the houses was pushed open. Savage Sword's figure appeared in front of Xing Hui. He looked at Xing Hui with a hint of coldness in his eyes. You're quite capable. You actually used less than 20 hours to find my location. After saying that, he glanced at Tan Yu and said, to think that I even asked him to protect me by forging a divine weapon for him. Tan Yu's expression changed slightly. Forging an item? Xing Hui frowned. Savage Sword was also enchanted with the divine protection technique. This was a characteristic that he did not expect. However, it did not make sense. With Savage Sword's identity and the backing of the Li Hen Holy Man and the Zhu Zhao Elder, the divine protection technique was completely useless to him. After all, if he wanted to use the divine protection technique to forge something, he would not be able to directly ask the Li Hen Holy Man or the Zhu Zhao Elder. You raised your chaos level. That's right. A hint of pain flashed across Remnant Sword's face. My chaos level was originally 28. Fortunately, I happen to have more than 200 Daoist charms as backup. Otherwise, if I were to be dragged into the battle of chaos, I'm afraid I wouldn't have any hope of winning. But now, that might not be the case. You only have 4 hours left, right? Of my 2 chaos levels, I spent 1 on the divine protection technique. The other chaos level was spent on the teleportation spell that a level 30 Son of Chaos should have. I can't defeat you, but can't I hide for a day? You still have 4 hours. Why don't you guess where I will be sent to this round of teleportation spell? Will you be able to find my location in these 4 hours? Kill him. Xing Hui's expression changed. He immediately shouted at Shen Chong. At the same time, his sword intent burst forth. He was going to rely on the power of his sword intent to interfere with Savage Sword's teleportation spell. Ha ha ha, remember, you only have 4 hours. Savage Sword did not give Shen Chong any time to attack. He opened his mouth and laughed wantonly. The next moment, his figure disappeared on the spot, allowing Shen Chong's attack to descend. With a roar that broke through the void, the house he was in was blasted into dust. He escaped again. Xing Hui took a deep breath. He knew that the more crucial the moment was, the more he could not be anxious. At this time, he had to calmly analyze and use the deduction technique to find out where Savage Sword might be teleported to. However, based on the current situation, to find Savage Sword's hiding place, it was too difficult. Sir, next, Ten Yu stood beside the gloomy Xing Hui. His heart was filled with uneasiness. He was afraid that this God's chosen one would lose control and order Shen Chong to vent his anger on him. Collect all the information about Savage Sword's appearance in Maple Town. Do not miss any details. Xing Hui said coldly. Yes. Tan Yu responded and quickly ordered people to do as he was told. When Xing Hui returned to the Maple Forest Sect branch, a stack of information had been piled up in front of Xing Hui. Xing Hui had to suppress his emotions and quickly flip through them. As he flipped through, Xing Hui quickly noticed some key information. Savage Sword appeared in Maple Town 12 hours ago. 12 hours ago, that is to say, he was in the forest for 6 hours. Logically speaking, when the War of Chaos starts, people will not be directly placed in the core of the battlefield. That is to say, Savage Sword appeared in Maple Town at the beginning, but he left Maple Town and stepped into the Lost Forest. I guess, he is choosing the location to teleport to when the time comes. Xing Hui flipped through the information, and time passed unknowingly. After waiting for the deduction technique to cool down, he once again used it to deduce the location of Savage Sword. 6 hours, a round trip of 3 hours, at the same time, a trace of mud on savage sword flashed across Tsing Hui's mind. That kind of mud was very similar to the big river that he and Shen Chong passed by. The location should be near that big river. After various information flashed through Tsing Hui's mind, a general area was immediately circled by Tsing Hui. Shen Chong, bring a detailed map of the lost forest and follow me. Chapter 507. In the air, Tsing Hui was flying at full speed on his sword, while constantly looking at the map. He had seen broken swords flying sword before. It was at the 11th level, which was one level lower than his sky-splitting sword. But because he was flying at full speed, compared to Tsing Hui and Shen Chong's speed, he was still faster. Tsing Hui estimated that he should be about 2,000 kilometers deep into the lost forest. With the big river as a reference, the range had been greatly reduced. However, this was only a relative term. When Tsing Hui and Shen Chong really arrived at the location that Tsing Hui estimated, looking at the vast forest around them, they still had a headache. "Mister, are you able to speculate his specific location? Moreover, even if you are able to speculate, we still have to be careful of him moving around at any time." Shen Chong had already lost some hope in finding Tsing Hui's opponent, Broken Sword. It's impossible for him to move around at any time. Since he has chosen a place to hide, he naturally has to hide well. The demonic beasts in the Lost Forest are from the 4th to the 10th level, but in fact, most of them are from the 5th to the 6th level. Among them, most of the demonic beasts in the lower levels would choose to live in groups. For the 5th and 6th level demonic beasts that live in groups, even he would have to spend a lot of effort to kill them. In order to avoid causing a big commotion when killing demonic beasts, he should have chosen a place to hide in advance. After choosing, he would not act rashly, so as to avoid being detected by the demonic beasts and causing a battle. But with the clues that we currently have, we can at most narrow down the range to a radius of 300 kilometers. In this range of 300 kilometers, with our methods, to find a person, is really too difficult. A radius of 300 kilometers. With Tsing Hui's current state where many of his methods were suppressed to the limit, to find a person was indeed like looking for a needle in a haystack. But, even if it was like looking for a needle in a haystack, he had to think of a way to fish out Broken Sword. Otherwise, what awaited him was death. In the battle of chaos, mastering all kinds of special abilities is important. Luck is also important. No wonder the heavenly axiom, which is obviously much stronger than the heavenly axiom, doesn't dare to recklessly start a battle of chaos with the heavenly axiom. No matter how strong the heavenly axiom's lineup is, it can't withstand the factor of luck. Once the heavenly axiom is extremely lucky and has mastered several major variables at the beginning, even though the heavenly axiom's many characteristics and level of chaos are above the heavenly axioms, there is still the possibility of failure. Therefore, the heavenly axiom doesn't dare to casually start a battle with the heavenly axiom. Many thoughts flashed through Tsing Hui's mind. Heaven Dome was not a weakling. If the heavenly Tao wanted to ensure that nothing would go wrong, the average chaos level was only 2 or 3 levels higher than Heaven Dome. Clearly, that was not reliable. It was like two athletes. One's speed was 100 meters in 10 seconds, while the other's was 100 meters in 9 seconds. This did not mean that the 100 meters in 9 seconds could always beat the 100 meters in 10 seconds. Many factors, such as state, venue, performance, environment, and so on, could lead to a reversal of the outcome. However, if the 100 meters in 9 seconds athlete made a breakthrough and reached the 100 meters in 8 seconds or even 7 seconds in one breath, no matter how extraordinary the 100 meters in 10 seconds athlete's performance was, it was impossible to turn the tables. Because this kind of gap had already reached a substantial level. "Sir, what should we do now? Should we wait patiently at the side or wait?" Tsing Hui collected his thoughts and glanced around. Time waits for no one. I estimate that there are only 2 hours left. In these 2 hours, I must find him. But, we have a range of 200 to 300 kilometers. If we have 2 hours, we won't be able to find him, right? We may not be able to find him, but there is something that can help us. As Tsing Hui spoke, his eyes fell on the river not far away. I remember that this place is not far from the 9-trace blood python's lair, right? Shen Chong made a rough estimation. Not far. About 300 to 400 kilometers. Then, let's let the 9-trace blood python lead the demonic beast army to help us find that little ant hiding in Broken Sword. Tsing Hui sneered. I remember you said that the 9-trace blood python is very sensitive to the aura of the blood grass. Even if it is hundreds or thousands of kilometers away, it can still sense its aura. Yes. The higher the level of the blood python, the more sensitive it is to the blood grass. A 9-trace blood python sensing range is up to 1,000 kilometers. It's not unusual. Then, with a flip of his hand, several blood-red stalks of grass appeared in Ching Su's hand. Blood grass. Sir, are you thinking of? Shen Chong suddenly thought of something. I stole all the blood-patterned grass planted by the 9-trace's blood python. It is currently in a state of rage. It almost caused a beast tide to sweep through the forest. If it senses the aura of the blood-patterned grass here at this moment, it will definitely go berserk. Shen Chong said with certainty. But in this way, I'm afraid we will be in great danger. At this time, we can't care so much. Tsing Hui took out the blood grass for a moment. After estimating that the 9-trace blood python should have sensed the aura of the blood grass, he put it away again. As expected, in less than a moment, waves of angry roars came from the direction of the 9-trace blood python from afar. The entire forest within a radius of several hundred kilometers fell into a riot. Countless powerful ferocious beasts and demonic beasts fought to go berserk. There was no peace within a radius of nearly 1,000 kilometers. Now, pay close attention and see if you can find Broken Sword. This is our only chance, Tsing Hui said in a deep voice. Even in a unique environment like the Chaos Battlefield, the rank 1 teleportation spell had a cooldown time of 1 day. Once Broken Sword appeared, Tsing Hui did not have to worry about him escaping with the teleportation spell again. Not long after, Tsing Hui saw the 9-trace blood python's huge figure, which was as huge as a moving city wall. Even if the 9-trace blood python's huge figure was casually tossed about in the forest, it could cause a terrifying destructive force that could destroy heaven and earth. Wherever it wreaked havoc, there was almost no place left intact. Even a mountain would collapse because of its huge figure. Where is it hiding? Tsing Hui concentrated and tried his best to hide in a tall ancient tree while looking around. At the same time, he raised his head. This time, the 9-traced blood python had clearly learned his lesson. Not only did he lead an army of demons over, but he had also commanded a group of scarlet-winged wyverns. These wyverns possessed the ability to soar through the air, and their battle prowess was not weak either. They were all between the 6th and 7th step, and there were 200 or 300 of them. Once Ching Su was bold enough to fly into the air and observe the situation within several hundred kilometers, he would definitely become the wyvern's prey. The field of vision is too small. Even if the Broken Sword is really forced out, it won't be easy for me to lock onto its position immediately. Give me 3 days and I'll definitely be able to dig out the Broken Sword. But now, I have less than 2 hours left. As the time limit of the backtrack spell approached, Tsing Hui began to feel anxious. He had to find a way to break out of this situation. Only by entering the void and looking down from above can I locate Broken Sword's location immediately. Tsing Hui raised his head and finally set his eyes on a rank 6 wyvern not far away from him. Shen Chong, I have given you the 10 blood-patterned grass that you asked for. You have also given me what I need. Our deal is complete. If there are any accidents or if I don't come looking for you in 2 hours, you can leave immediately. Well. Sir, please be careful. Shen Chong hesitated for a moment. Don't worry. Tsing Hui turned his gaze and looked at the interface of the Son of Chaos. He had 69 Taoist rhymes left. However, in addition to these Taoist rhymes, he also had the 88 Taoist rhymes item that he had safeguarded for Hidden Sword Venerable. In other words, he had a total of 157 Taoist rhymes. It was not difficult for him to raise his chaotic level. As the Green Ruin's mind focused, the item containing the 100th aura of Ways immediately turned to dust. In the next moment, his chaotic level directly rushed to the 51st step. However, after reaching the 51st step, he did not choose to increase his comprehension, nor did he increase his technique of divination. Instead, he placed his new level on the special ability he had derived from the 50th step, the transformation technique. Whoosh! In the next moment, a sword ray pierced through the air and beheaded the rank 6 wyvern. Fresh blood splattered across the sky. Ching Su leapt up. When the other wyverns sensed the abnormality here, he immediately intercepted a droplet of blood, and then, the transformation technique was activated. Instantly, Tsing Hui's mind seemed to have seen the pattern of the rank 6 wyvern's genetic structure through the drop of blood. Moreover, he rapidly reorganized himself according to this genetic pattern through the transformation technique. Amidst the intense pain, his body was completely reconstructed in just a few breaths. He directly transformed into a rank 6 wyvern. After transforming into a rank 6 wyvern, Tsing Hui clearly felt that his senses, vision, touch, hearing, and so on had all undergone a series of changes. Although his consciousness was still that of a human, his 5 senses had become the same as a snake's. He even had the ability to sense living things through heat and air vibrations. Correspondingly, his vision began to deteriorate greatly. This made Tsing Hui, who originally thought that he could fly high in the sky and look down below to lock onto the position of the broken sword, feel extremely speechless. Transformation technique. The duration is determined by the life essence and attribute level. The attributes of this body of mine are extremely poor. I completely rely on my spirit level to raise the average, but even so, my total attribute level is only rank 148. On average, it's only rank 37, which is equivalent to a rank 3 demonic beast. Fortunately, my life essence is 2 levels higher than the red-winged wyvern, so the transformation technique can last up to half an hour. I have to use this highly myopic vision to observe the ground for half an hour. I've dug my own grave. Tsing Hui was somewhat helpless. However, he had no choice but to control this body that was clearly not used to flying into the sky. He flapped his wings and patrolled around. However, Tsing Hui quickly realized that the body of a wyvern was not as simple as he had imagined. The red-winged wyverns clearly had a special communication system. After Tsing Hui transformed into a red-winged wyvern, he was actually able to understand their communication. And the advantage of this discovery was, the more than 300 red-winged wyverns in the void could share information. Through this kind of information sharing, he quickly realized that something was not right. 2 wyverns had mysteriously disappeared. I finally found you. Chapter 508. Whoosh! Tsing Hui's wings flapped and his 30-meter-long body made a turn. He quickly flew towards the area where the 2 flying dragons had mysteriously disappeared. Soon, he arrived at his destination. Here, he carefully looked around and quickly grasped some clues. Ferocious beasts, spiritual beasts, holy beasts, divine beasts. Among the many living creatures, ferocious beasts usually acted based on their instincts. Spiritual beasts had a little bit of spirituality, but their intelligence couldn't be compared to ordinary people. Even some ordinary holy beasts had intelligence, but it was very difficult for them to communicate with humans. Only the 6 divine beasts, or the holy beasts with higher intelligence, and divine beasts had the ability to smoothly communicate with humans. Furthermore, they could think, calculate, and even use tools. Red-winged flying dragon, spiritual beasts obviously did not think much about such details. Unfortunately, although Tsing Hui had the appearance of a red-winged flying dragon, he was not a real red-winged flying dragon. The traces left behind by the remnant sword in a hurry became the biggest flaw he left behind. Following these flaws, he quickly chased after them. In a short while, he had chased them for hundreds of kilometers. You're quite fast at escaping. I'd like to know where you can escape to. Tsing Hui carefully sensed. Flying dragons were very sensitive to vibrations on the ground and even in the air. Tsing Hui glanced at the deduction technique that had finished cooling down. With this special ability, he directly operated the deduction technique. Suddenly, countless details and data flashed through his mind, and soon, they were intertwined into an extremely detailed report. After receiving this information, Tsing Hui's eyes flashed. The next moment, he directly turned around and rushed towards an area similar to a swamp that he had just passed by. After less than 10 kilometers, Tsing Hui directly controlled this body and began to spray venom into the swamp. The red-winged flying dragon's lethality was not strong, but due to its snake-like characteristics, there was a powerful venom in its body. These venoms were often fatal. Not to mention an ordinary human whose physique was only equivalent to a first change demon beast, even a sixth change, seventh change, or eighth change demon beast would die from the venom of the red-winged flying dragon. Bastard! Seeing Tsing Hui release poison into the swamp, Broken Sword, who had buried himself in the swamp, immediately let out a low roar and leaped out of the swamp. With a low roar, a powerful sword intent with terrifying power slashed towards Tsing Hui. It tried to kill Tsing Hui at the soul level like it did with ordinary sixth transformation monsters. However, what he did not know was that the red-winged flying dragon in front of him was not as simple as an ordinary red-winged flying dragon. Broken Sword, you're finally willing to jump out. Tsing Hui's eyes sparkled as he spoke in a low voice. However, due to the difference in vocal cords between humans and red-winged wyverns, the sound it made was also a hissing sound, as if it was asking for help from its companions. Stop here. The sword intent in the Green Ruin's spiritual world protected his soul, completely ignoring the sword intent from the remnant sword. His colossal body was like a predator that stood at the very top of all living creatures, lunging towards the remnant sword viciously. The rain of blood that swept out directly made the remnant sword retreat. Buzz! Sword intent vibrated. Broken Sword intent slashed into Tsing Hui's spiritual world, but before it could cause any ripples, it was suppressed by Tsing Hui's sword intent and turned into dust. The pain caused by the collapse of the sword intent caused Broken Sword's expression to change greatly. How can this monster, a sixth transformation monster, was equivalent to a sixth-rank spirit beast? An existence at this level might not be able to compare to the might of a visionary divine expert when they unleashed their battle physique, but it was definitely not something a mere Awakening Realm cultivator could resist, even if the Awakening Realm cultivator was originally an almighty who had cultivated a remarkable ability. Die! Following Tsing Hui's low roar, Tsing Hui, who had pounced over like lightning, slapped Broken Sword's body. In an instant, a power that Broken Sword's Awakening Realm body could not resist burst out and shattered his fragile body on the spot. No! Following Broken Sword's mournful and unwilling scream, Tsing Hui also felt the various restraints of the entire chaos battlefield on him rapidly disappearing. At this time, he could withdraw his consciousness from the chaos battlefield at any time and return to his body. It's over. Tsing Hui muttered. In just a short day, he naturally did not have much nostalgia for this world. He had also taken the only cultivation system in this world that he was somewhat interested in from Shinchong. Without any hesitation, he directly withdrew his consciousness from the chaos battlefield and returned to his body. In the void, the alchemy puppet was still constantly harassing Tsing Hui, but how could Tsing Hui, who had already changed his state, care about a mere alchemy puppet? The Scarlet Abyss sword chi burst out, and the powerful 10th rank alchemy puppet was directly pierced through by his sword. Sparks burst out, and he almost completely destroyed it. No! Outside the hatred heaven realm, Broken Sword let out a painful scream. Compared to before, his essence, energy, and spirit had fallen by a large margin. He looked at Xing Hui with eyes full of resentment and pain. Bastard, you actually, Broken Sword. Without the various characteristics of the Son of Chaos amplification, I'd like to see what you can do to me. Broken Sword stared at Xing Hui, his eyes bloodshot from intense rage. I won't let you go. I won't let you go. I swear to the heavens, I won't let you go. Bastard. You're dead. You're dead. Why don't we see who dies first between the two of us? Xing Hui stared coldly at Broken Sword. With a flip of his hand, he took out an image recording stone. Taking advantage of the fact that Broken Sword was outside the hatred heaven realm, he quickly used the image recording stone to record the scene before him. At the same time, a part of his consciousness appeared in the sky and flew towards the Celestial Master's courtyard at the fastest speed possible. Broken Sword's pupils shrank when he saw the image recording stone in Xing Hui's hand. Once Xing Hui handed the image recording stone to the Celestial Master, the sword wielder in the Celestial Master would definitely send a clone down immediately and bring this traitor of the Celestial Master to justice. As for charging into the hatred heaven realm to fight Xing Hui to the death, it was meaningless. His earlier confrontation with Xing Hui had already proven that Xing Hui's abilities were not inferior to his. For the time being, he could not do anything to Xing Hui, especially since his level 8 recovery characteristics had been taken away in one fell swoop. He could no longer unleash his abilities as unrestrained as before. Under such circumstances, Xing Hui was completely capable of using his level 10 recovery characteristics to drag him to death. If a non-Chaosan of Chaos fought a peak level 40 Son of Chaos, the chances of victory would drop to an extremely low level. I have to solve the problem of the sword wielder as soon as possible. Fortunately, my father had already thought of this problem long ago and had a plan. It was only because he was afraid of being exposed that he did not activate it. Broken Sword thought to himself and immediately split a portion of his consciousness into the Chaos Temple and found the Hatred Holy Man immediately. As he searched for the Hatred Holy Man, his expression changed continuously. When Xing Hui, this little bastard, slandered me the last time, Zhu Zhao did his best to protect me. If Xing Hui really brings the image recording stone to Zhu Zhao will fly into a rage out of humiliation and use a teleportation spell to personally kill me nearby. As he thought of this, he did not dare to waste any more time here. He clenched his fist and the hatred heaven realm quickly appeared in his hand and enveloped his entire body. This way, with the interference of the hatred heaven realm, at least it could affect the sword wielder's ability to lock onto his position. However, seeing that Broken Sword had kept the hatred heaven realm, Xing Hui quickly followed and seemed to be stalking him. This scene immediately caused Broken Sword's expression to change slightly and he immediately unleashed his full speed. However, even though he was fast, Xing Hui was not slow either. The level 12 flying sword, Heaven Splitter, was definitely one of the best in the market. Apart from a few flying swords that were unearthed from ancient caves, the level 12 flying sword represented the pinnacle of flying sword craftsmanship in the entire divine wilderness. Relying on the level 12 flying sword and the recovery ability of the level 10 flying sword, Broken Sword was unable to successfully shake off Xing Hui at all. Bastard! Go to hell! Looking at Qing Su who was right behind him, Chan Jian roared out furiously and sent out another ability. The Heavenly Peng's battle body turned into a sharp blade that could slice through space, slashing towards Qing Su viciously. He moved with unbelievable speed. Clang! The Scarlet Abyss sword hummed. Xing Hui, who was already prepared, unleashed his sword intent. The Scarlet Abyss sword emitted a resplendent brilliance and collided with Broken Sword's divine ability head-on. Thousands of sword flashes shot out at the moment of collision, cutting through the void. Some of the sword flashes even splattered onto the ground, creating sword scars that were thousands of meters long and even tens of thousands of meters long, causing the earth to shake violently. Fortunately, the place where the two of them fought was rather remote. If the two of them were in the sky above a country, the sword chi would be enough to slice a city in half, causing tens of thousands of casualties. With broken sword's obstruction, the distance between the two of them was slightly pulled apart. However, as Tsing Hui spared no effort in expending his vital energy, he quickly regained his footing and was still far behind Broken Sword. Broken Sword. Since I'm definitely going to die today, why are you in such a hurry to leave? Why don't you stay and fight me to the death? Wouldn't that be great? Bastard! Broken Sword let out an angry roar. The more time was pressing, the greater the chance of him falling into danger. No one knew what method heaven would use to deal with him after learning of his betrayal. If he did not get rid of Tsing Hui as soon as possible, heaven's people would chase after him based on the clues provided by Tsing Hui. A moment later, the Broken Sword seemed to think of something. He glanced at the grief-parting heaven realm that was protecting him, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. A rank 40 son of chaos. Since this bastard used the primal chaos war to strip me of my primal chaos rank, then his primal chaos rank shall be my compensation. However, just by relying on words alone, even if the heavenly axiom values Tsing Hui, they probably won't let an invincible divine stage powerhouse personally take action. Letting a Tao Lord keep an eye on him is already the limit. But if it's just a Tao Lord, it's still not safe. I must let my father, the Lihan holy man, personally take action and kill him to ensure that nothing goes wrong. If I let him personally take action. In the next moment, the Lihan heaven realm that enveloped Broken Sword suddenly turned and actually turned towards Tsing Hui again, enveloping Tsing Hui within. Although losing the Lihan heaven realm will result in a heavy punishment, but Tsing Hui who has obtained the Lihan heaven realm will definitely die. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.